Hello. Hello, man. This is your usual Sunday throwdown. It's me and Zeta here. I just sent out the request, and anybody that wants to come in, just let us know. But we're just going to talk here today about man stuff as usual, man stuff. And Eric had a question, and I didn't realize this was happening. Eric says when he went to my front page, he couldn't see any kind of ad for the actual Hangout, and he's right. And he kept asking me this question, and I wasn't getting it. And I'm sorry about that, Eric. I just wasn't getting what you were asking there for a few weeks that you've been asking it. And yes, I'm going to try to work on that this week. So when you come to the page, you'll see the first ad that comes up will be there'll be a link for the future event. And yeah, I just wasn't getting that. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for that information. And
for sure, yeah. Well, let's try that out. I'm still gelling in and trying to get the ins and outs of that, as you were explaining to me earlier, Joe. Hello, everyone in the chat room. Hello, everyone all over the world. And here we are again with the Sunday Throwdown. Zeta X here. Yeah. So, what's a good thing to start off here? I guess we're just waiting for Shining and Ultras to join us shortly, I guess. Eh?
Yeah, if they're coming in. I just sent the request out a few minutes ago. I'm late, and there was kind of a reason why I was late this week, and I wanted to talk about that. Maybe
sure, Joe.
Health, isn't it? Yeah. I cut myself really bad this week, and then I got an infection, and my infection went internal, so I had some internal problems, and I was doing the man thing, where I just didn't go to the doctor. I didn't want to do that. I was doing the man thing and saying, I'm going to just solve this problem by changing. And it didn't stop bleeding, and it started over bleeding. And I found out some interesting things about myself with that.
What's that?
Well, the first thing is I didn't want to do it. And that was interesting. And the second thing that I found out is an infection. When you get an infection as a man, it changes your personality dramatically.
Can you explain?
I was
get into it.
At first I was moody. I was really moody, and I was like upset about a lot of things, and we do that man grimace stuff,
right?
When we walk out in the morning, you're just like it's the dad bear thing in the morning. I was doing that, and I didn't notice I was doing that, and I don't have nobody around until I do interactions with people that tell me these things. Like, there is no partner here. There's my son, but a lot of times he's not around in the morning, and that's who kind of informed me that I was moody and there was something wrong. And when we see these things in other men, we often forget to ask them what's wrong. What is the problem? Did you do an introspection with your body? And what do you realize from that? And what I realized is I had an infection, and it was bleeding, and I was moody. And then I started taking the antibiotics and stuff that they gave me. And then my personality changed again to a more upbeat. It kind of went over a little. My personality went over to a it's hard to explain. It's into a different frame, into a different mental frame, or mental formation, if you will. Yeah, that's a way of saying it. Yeah, equally not as it was equally not me. It wasn't balanced. I wasn't balanced at all. And then finally, when it tapered down, I looked back on my week and did the introspection, like I should do, like we say here that we should do every week. And finally, this morning, I had a slow start again, and I was like, okay, I'll do all the proper things in the proper way that I'm supposed to. I took my shower, cleaned the wound, made sure everything was done, brushed my teeth, bathed, all those things that we do that kind of make us feel to kind of go, made the coffee and everything. And after I sit down, I realized that's my introspection moment, when I have to take some time for myself.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, oh, yeah, I see all these things now. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I what I think is I had a similar experience. Mind you, I didn't get an infection, but I got pretty much a heavy duty realization about the business that I'm in. So mine's more business related.
Yeah.
And, it put me in a vulnerable position. But that in itself, I'm not just not going into details here, but I'm just trying to talk around the general gist of what you experienced and what I went through, which
Yeah.
all I can say is it really put my business life into perspective. Okay. And it's just the goings on with the industry that I'm in. And, and the people that I deal with sometimes too, as well. I got to check on, I got to be careful that I might not be dealing with people who have narcissistic, personalities and all that.
Yeah. Now is that like a Mgtow event for you, sort of like you can spot these things and you're trying to, what I found, was it last year or 2 years ago when I started changing the business over again? And we talked about that.
Sensitive all the time too, as well. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Am I
I can hear
breaking
you.
up?
No, you're
Okay.
cool. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just have a bit of a dead pocket, dead air in where I live here.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what I've been faced with.
You're
And
doing a
I
fourth
spent a
on,
good
aren't
24
you?
hours. Sorry, can you hear me?
You're doing the
Hello?
forethought on this thing.
Lou?
Hello, Zeta.
Yeah, I'm still here. Am I coming through?
Yes, I don't think you could hear me. Let me put that in there. I think we have one of those Google problems.
How are things now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. There you go.
Okay,
Hi.
there we go. I think it was you couldn't hear me.
Yeah, I think we broke up there.
Yeah.
Did anybody get what I was talking about there?
Yes. I think it went through fine.
Okay.
My question to you was: Is this a foresight thing that you're seeing this in foresight and you're doing the Mgtow
Well,
introspection?
it is a foresight, and I got to be careful because when you get a jarring experience like that, you go right into survival mode, right? At least that's what I went through, and it's like, oh my god, it's like, look at how vulnerable I am. I could really, I could lose it here in this particular area, and
Yeah.
and then sizing up, my goodness, at my age now, everything that I've done, the other industries I was in, things have changed dramatically in the past 7 years, right?
Yeah.
So, I had to size up everything in a worst case scenario. What could I do? And it also in the 24 hours simultaneously, all these thoughts go through your head. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
holy
There's
shit.
a lot to think about.
Lots to think about, and and calm yourself down. To the point, where you can be rational again and look at the situation at hand.
Yeah. Is
And
there any chance
yeah,
of like a small vacation or a
well,
sabbatical or
I went through, of course, I went through the whole business analysis there, how I would communicate things and, go through the scenarios. But you see, I was motivated by fear. Okay. So fear was underlying all this in this 24 hours. And all of a sudden, it's how my brain engaged. And it's like, okay, this needs to be done. This needs to be done. Boom. Like rationalizing the whole thing. But I was motivated by fear. So that, once I put everything into perspective, okay, here's my game plan, here's what I need, the whole strategy, if you will, right?
Okay, yeah,
So
that's what we
if
do.
a worst case scenario happens, I brought everything down to a worst case scenario and go, okay, this is what I have going, this is what I can work with. If something happens, I can go see so and so. You know what I mean? But that's,
Yeah.
that's the survival instinct at work, and I got to separate from that and be able to look at that. You're talking about introspection. This is an example of how I would do,
A
how
good
I dealt
example of
with that.
introspection, and you're
That's
doing
right.
the networking right now, right?
Yeah, doing the network right now. Now, also the thing that jarred me too, as well, and the way it was presented to me, by the particular individual. Okay, also triggered other things, right? Which I had to talk myself out of, if you will, so that I don't start seeing the situation a little out of control, or, where I start making a mound out of a making a mole. What is it? A mountain out of a molehill kind of thing?
Yeah, making a mountain out of a molehill. We overreact.
Yeah, exactly. Overreact. Yeah. So, but again, that shows exactly, what needs to be done at hand. And, in a sense, it's kind of like I'm glad I was presented with that, because it taught me that, you can't get too comfortable. You get too
Can't.
cozy. And if something happens, okay, how are you going to react? right? And especially in this day and age, I'm taking into consideration too the society that I live in a highly feminized society. I got to be careful with my relations, and nowadays, careful what I say and how I say things. And that's just not just with women, even with people out there. Now, it's enough to drive things paranoid, but especially in the areas of business, there's a particular conduct, that and a particular way of doing things. And I mean, we discuss this, Joe, about etiquettes and all this.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, just to bring it down to the square root here, I'm kind of glad that I was presented with this. It gives me something to work with.
Okay. Yeah. So, the first thing I go to in my mind, and it's sort of a trained response, is if I could take time off, if I can do like it, if I could do that, if I could manage that, how much money I have in the bank, how much it would cost to survive. You start doing those analytical things that, and then I see like, oh, I don't have that money to now. I really have to start worrying, or yes, I do have the money where I can just go, okay, I can take a month off, 2 months or 3 months, or how many, even up to a year, 2 years. I've done that before. And I do that because that's like a me thing. That would be the selfish Mgtow thing. They call us selfish. It's like, how can I take a year off of work? And I go there because I find that that's very important with us sometimes is, man, especially after I worked like almost 30 years straight.
Yeah.
And then I said, oh, I'm beat up.
Well, there's that element too that I got to deal with too as well, Joe. Is it's and I've said this before. I was since I was working since age 12, and just to gauge from age 12 up until age 50, I did an inventory. I did like 38 jobs, including menial, part-time jobs.
Yeah.
And I had 4 major career changes. Since I left high school up until age 50. Okay. So and I mean different careers from all kinds of
Oh yeah,
different industries, right?
That was a good
so
experience.
That fatigue factor. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It was a good experience for me when I first got out of the Army.
Yeah,
and I started running through jobs. I ran through like 11 jobs in about 6 months, and then I realized that I was gauging the climate, gauging every time the manager or something would say something for shit with me, I would just that would be it. I would go off on him. I'd do something horrible to the place or him, and then I would leave. And they're like, you don't deserve me. And I put myself above. And then finally I got into that job, which the manager was cool to me. And then I was comfortable. And that was my first really long term. That was a 20-year job, my first job at Mobil Oil. And but I could have settled for any of those jobs before that. But I did the no, I'm not willing to deal with this guy for the rest of my life thing. And I was rather aggressive when I was at that age, so I just I put them guys away real harshly. Yeah, hello, male feelings.
Greetings. Male feelings.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning.
Well, just catching up.
Okay, yeah, we're just kind of flinging it around here. We're talking about male situations, and taking that introspection and doing that, and how we get better at that as we age a little bit, or even it could come very fast. Like I just said, we move through things in a more efficient way sometimes as males, making those decisions. But selfishness sometimes has to come first, and we get accused in Mgtow for that selfishness. And the faster we get to that selfishness, the better off we are. The better off we are for our community or whoever lives around us. Because working in a job that we don't want to be in, or just doing it for somebody else, or all those things will make you miserable. And we have to we have to almost learn to put ourselves first, don't we?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I mean, I think it's complicated a little bit because, like, as males, there's a tendency to have that capacity to be selfless and sort of, for the good of others and all that. But when the world is playing on a different set of rules, then that's kind of you're at a disadvantage. So you kind of you're kind of forced into it, even though
Right.
males do have that capacity, but it's just not appreciated or treated as it's.
It's totally taken for granted. Most of the time, it's taken for granted.
Yeah.
It's and that's that whole utility mentality. It's like, this is what that man is doing, therefore that's what he is. Oh, that's all he's doing. Let's move on.
Yeah, the world is a bitch, and Briffault's law applies, isn't it? They don't remember what you've done, or they don't remember who you are. All those laws kind of apply to the world if you think about the general society as a bitch, and that's why we call it gynocentric.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all one giant Briffault's law. Absolutely. What you did for me, what have you done for me lately? I don't care.
What have you done for me lately? And they will take your utility and forget about it. And that's it. There is no looking back on the past with gynocentrism or it's so cruel to us males that when we get into these situations that we have to immediately, and I mean immediately sometimes in our lives, just change everything in our lives. I went through this period of life once where I ended up with the kids and I was comfortable in a situation and I had to change my job, where I lived, what I did, how much money I was making in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, yeah. I've been in situations like that too, man. And it's, wow. I don't know if I could handle it now, but if, like I was sharing earlier, it's something that it's a potential eventuality for me, right? And I know that I had the energy to do it when I was younger because I did it, right? I'm just really questioning now, hey, regardless of the fact, if it needs to be done, it has to be done. That's simple as that.
Right. Yeah. It's just, sometimes it's just it has to, and we get put in those situations, and nothing we've done in the past means anything unless you save money. That goes with the whole Mgtow economics of things. Mgtow economics. What you've done in the past is now important, and then we can stop Briffault's law right about there, because your actions in the past will lead to your happiness in the future, and that's how. The only place you're going to get that is from you. Nobody else cares. Nobody else is. This is Briffault's law and hypertide now. Yeah. Who do we
Sorry, Joe. I was just sidetracked there for a sec.
Okay, yeah. Who do we have? We have Eric, we have Gray Soul, we have Swine Dog, 712, James Denton. Hello, all those guys. Thanks for showing up and thanks for listening. And we are allowed to be angry while defending a woman, though. Yeah, we're allowed to be angry while defending a woman.
Kind of comes natural to us in many forms.
Yeah. So these things we go through as life, the introspection helps out. If you got to take that time to look at the things logically.
And of course, and do it when you have a level head. If like I said, if you have a jarring experience in one day, it could be something as simple as somebody threatening you or saying a threatening thing in an authoritative position. That's enough to throw your whole day off, right?
Oh, yeah.
So things like that, can happen. And then the combination of everything else surrounding that, as I was experienced. So we have to be on guard. We have to be on guard all the time, right? And and of course not accumulate stress, right? And not thinking unnecessarily. So be able to manage that, Joe.
We start seeing red sometimes. This little thing, we start seeing red. And I made a video this morning actually, and that was the topic: Mgtow seeing red, and somehow it inhibits us from taking the full experience of what is happening in some minor things that happen to like major things in your life. This could if we react in a certain way, we will get a certain result. It's And seeing red sometimes is them same glasses. It's the same and the opposite of is those what do you call them, rose-colored glasses. Seeing
Rose-colored
red,
glasses, yeah.
yeah, you're just seeing red, and you can't dissect or analyze the situation correctly when you're seeing red. So stop, think about it, do a little mini scientific analysis of what's going on, and I started doing that when I was about 30, 32, I think. I just seen that I needed to slow down, stop, start thinking about things, and put a set of rules in my life. And one of the rules I put in my life at that point was the and or not rule. I said, what is this? Which one is this? Is this an and? If I do this and this, it'll add up to this.
And, yeah.
If I do the or, I can do this or I can do this, but I can't do them both at the same time. And there's a certain cruelness and harshness to that or I can do a not. Now the not is really hard to understand if you never went through an electrical program or anything, or Borrellian logic. A not is I turn the water is automatically on. What I'm doing is I'm turning the water off, so I'm taking an action to turn the water off, which is a not. It's a not gate. So do I need to turn certain water off, and I can have a nor, which is a not and an or. Now these things start, when I'm putting these things together in my head, and they're helping me develop a pattern in my life that is very logical, very efficient, and very useful. And the more you do it, we were talking about this with male feelings, and who was in yesterday on a chat we were having? I can't remember, but
you were having a chat. I wasn't around yesterday, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, we did a talk about putting these patterns in our lives, and maybe it was on the Thursday Throwdown or Thursday Joe thing that I've been doing lately. But putting certain patterns in your life is useful, because we are creatures of habit, and men especially are creatures of habit, and you soon find out even if you're dating, that dating, or not even dating, searching for a piece of ass or a soulmate or whatever you're searching for, it doesn't really matter. There are certain patterns in your life. It means things don't start running until you do those patterns.
Yeah. Well, or, you're able to master something, in the meantime, in order for you to move forward.
Yeah.
It's a variety of things, but, it's part of that problem-solving process, or even just being creative, right, too, as well. But it's problem-solving skills, and, there's always a mathematical thing about it, too. Remember problem-solving in math class back in the day? Everything relates. But this is something, we need to be honed in and skilled at, right?
Yeah,
and skillful thinking, too.
Yeah. Critical thinking is important. When you start thinking critically as a man, you have to make harsh, critical decisions as a man. Especially when you're thinking about yourself. I always filter in the myself. What do I get out of this thing? And if I'm not getting anything out of it, it's probably not worth doing. Or I'll experience that old, I don't really want to do it. I'll start, being that way about things, and it won't get done.
Yeah, I got to watch those procrastination slumps. They can be dangerous. Well, that's one thing when it comes to procrastination. I've had my bouts with that. But one thing that's helped is to minimalize everything as best as possible. Everything in my life, keep everything pretty much accessible. That's what being minimal does.
Yeah.
I especially like the minimalist exercise of when I take off out of the city, when I go up north, like I did last weekend, or 2 weeks ago. I like living out of a minimalist frame, my backpack and everything, and, going to the woods with that, and just make do with what's available. But again, it's keeping things accessible. When you buy stuff, it ends up being cluttered, right? Ending up in the garage somewhere, and then and then you just keep on piling shit on top of shit, right?
Yeah.
So being careful, not to procrastinate, but being minimalist really helps with that, I find.
Yeah. Which tool do you use for the right job? And everything we do, like the cabin, is the tool to find your serenity. That pathway to the cabin.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
That you have in your little tool closet in Zeta's head on how I could how I deal with stress and how I deal with my life and circumstances, and you know, you put these tools in it, but we don't want to have like a tool that's not sharp, you know, a tool that's useless, and then you're searching through your tools in your head. It's like, oh God, you know, which one do I use?
Which one do you use? Well, and you know, and this is a common thing that I get sometimes. Oh, geez, how nice of you to go up to your cabin and all this and all that. And first of all, I'm not trying to escape. Okay, this is not about escaping. Escaping is a totally different thing. It's about selecting a period of time, 1, 2 days, a full 24 hours, or a full 48 hours. Okay, where I just don't have to deal with what I've been going through. You know. And once I'm there, that's it. You know, it's an opportunity, again, to allow the setting that I'm in to put my mind at ease so that I can start, you know, move on and be in a, you know, it's about clearing my mind, man. Yeah. That's all it is. Plain and simple.
Yeah. I wanted to say Shining's in the room. Hello, Shining. Does Shining got his mic set yet?
Greetings, guys. Am I coming in?
Good. Hey. You're coming in loud and clear, sir.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Sorry I'm a bit late. I know you're an hour later than normal. I thought, well, I'll just go and chill out. And obviously I've chilled out just a little bit too much. I see we've got male feelings in today, the great misogynists of our time. It's great to see him. Is he there or is he in hiding?
I think he's in. But
are you there, male feelings?
No, he's passed out.
He's passed out. He's sleeping on the chair.
Like a cat. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So
Shining, what's going on with these complaints? My goodness.
I know. Have you guys talked about the complaints? We've been inundated by literally an email. What email by saying, well, let's have a read of the email, shall we?
You got an email of complaints.
I thought.
Oh, okay. So we've got a mailbag. So we've got a mailbag going on. Fantastic.
Let's read the mailbag.
Let's read the mailbag. This is the complaint hour. Okay, guys, brace yourselves.
Literally two email. Okay, dear so-called Mgtow monks, you chumps are too celibate and just agree with each other all the time. So there you go, guys. We're just in too much agreement. There's not enough arguing going on in this neck of the woods.
Here, let me write all these down while we go.
Okay. Second one says, yes, you have become an echo chamber.
Yeah, I got to write this down. There's going to be, there might be a multiple choice on this afterwards. Great. Yeah. Hey, guys in the chat room, you might want to take this as well, but take note here, eh, guys?
So for those that don't know what an echo chamber is, it's one of those like metallic like wind tunnels where, you know, like yodelers and engineers go and like fine tune their you know, that perfect note, I suppose. Why do people have echo chambers? That must be it.
Well,
must be just a fancy
design. That's an echo box that people put themselves in to hear themselves. I think he's talking more on that. Like
an echo box, is that like an Xbox?
Yeah, no, like a box. We shield ourselves from. What he's saying is we're too celibate, and somehow in his mind he's making a false equivocation that we're shielding ourselves from society and putting ourselves in a box, so we only hear the people around us, and that makes us feel better.
Well, you know, it is kind of like a little internet cafe being amongst you guys. Don't mind saying that at all, but yeah. I mean,
well, and really that's all it is, because, you know, when we fold our laptops and, you know, we get off our app on the phone, that's when real life happens. And that's really where the test of being a Mgtow or being a so-called monk, as they would like to perceive a monk, because I'll leave them be with their perception. That's fine. You know, what my perception of a monk and what I do as a monk, that's my business, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, what's
you know,
the next question?
And that's your frickin' business. Yeah.
Well, in all seriousness, I think that's exactly what we are doing. We're dealing with real life here, and this is how we deal with it. I mean, I think those people that live with their head in the sand and pretend that it's quite safe to go back to the proverbial plantation, I think they're the ones that aren't living in real life, really.
I think they're not living in real. Yeah, we had a great example of this in one of our chats this week, and I said, the guy, I think the guy that was asking the same question of me said he's allowed to be a homosexual, cross-dressing, transsexual lesbian that likes to dress up like little dolls, but I'm not allowed to be celibate.
Well, that is weird because if it's one person that's not living in real life, it's the man that thinks he's a woman.
Yeah. Well, I could sort of relate because for the longest time I thought I was a lesbian trapped in a man's body. What can I tell you? What can I say, guys?
I want to be a lesbian trapped in a man's body.
I'd like to. I mean, geez, those orgies would be great, eh? You know, to satisfy that side of my brain that I haven't utilized for a while and don't intend to.
So long as you find a woman that's gay.
Really.
A gay transsexual woman who's into men.
Yeah, just think of the letter and add to the LGBTQ acronym. You know, just extend it and prolong that. Yeah, go for it.
Mgtow.
Mgtow, whatever. You know, go for it. Knock yourselves out. What's the next question now there?
That's it.
That was it? Okay,
yeah,
so, okay. Well, yeah, that's a loaded question. Yeah, we can definitely tear that one apart, yeah. It's good to be Monk, eh?
That would be the first question on my mind. We hear this all the time. I'm just being what I am in Mgtow, and I have the right to do what I want. And that's what they're saying. They have the right to do what I want. But when we say we're celibate and we're the Mgtow monks, we don't have the right to do that.
We can't do that. No, that's going too far, guys.
Yeah, that's hypocrisy, isn't it? It's total hypocrisy on their side.
Yeah. It's a strange situation. I mean, it's like a man who thinks he's a woman. He's upset that we're too celibate, and he's angry that he's angry that we're too agreeable.
Yeah.
He's angry that we don't argue enough. You know, we need to get out of the handbags, put on the frocks, and start swinging them at each other.
Yeah. Do we have to fuck other guys too? Is that one of the things that he wants out of us?
I don't know.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I have no interest in giving another guy a little come up there.
Yeah. I think, but I think that's certainly an indication that it's a man's space. The fact that we don't like bitch and scratch and like backbite each other and stuff like that. I think that's something that's common amongst men anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, anyway, found a new channel this week. I don't know if you guys have come across him.
Who's that?
He's just started off. He's called Gospel Authentic. He's got a fantastic Mgtow video of a PUA.
Is he the one that just did that video on Jodi Arias and her lover about the PUA who got stabbed? Yeah. I think that's the guy.
Yeah, he's got like the images of like the dead body, and he's got like the pictures of the woman, the man, and wow, really graphic. I mean, really cool, and he tells the story of this PUA who's like, he had actually his own business or something, or a very successful career. And, he's there.
Yeah, well, this was a high-profile case shining last year. The Jodi Arias case. Okay, right. And that was heavy stuff, man. That was one heavy trial.
It's the first time I actually heard of it when I came across Gospel Authentic's video. I mean, I don't know why anybody else didn't do it. I mean, it's a great case, great example. You know, the bitch got dumped, and then she drove 15 hours, I think, 15 hours to go see him, and the guy goes and has sex with her. You know, he's dumped her. She drives 15 hours up. She breaks into his house, and then he has sex with her anyway, and then she goes and stabs him to death in the shower. You know, stabs him. Was it 22 times? And then she goes and shoots him in the head.
Yeah.
Shoots him in the head, and she's taking all. What can I say, guys? You know, personally thinking, I think every woman would like to stab her ex 22 times after she's been shunted off by for another woman. But
yeah, I think they're capable of it too, and that's something we don't realize. We just had that incident a couple of years ago, and I don't know if you remember it with the space astronaut lady that was on the NASA team that drove for what was it, 24 hours through Texas to get to Florida where NASA was, and she was wearing diapers and not stopping.
Nice.
And when she got pulled over for speeding, she was the police officer obviously noticed the stench in the car coming up from that. And I can't remember what happened when she got there, but it hit the news like, okay, crazy lady wearing diapers going to assault her ex-boyfriend for for simply making the decision of not wanting to be with her.
Yeah. No, there's crazies out there. I mean, I can remember back in the early 90s after I broke up, I was doing the dating thing, and I happened to latch on to a crazy, because, of course, the sex back then was just mind-blowing, right? And, of course, it was such a spiritual experience, quote unquote. But after I decided, after a couple of weeks, that she wasn't the one I wanted to date, she threatened me with, with a false accusation. And, and this is the thing. Back then, it's like, it's like you don't talk about that, and I put it out of my mind for the longest time. But the fact is that I was threatened with a false rape accusation.
Yeah.
And this is her, telling me over the phone, right? Just because I didn't want to pursue with her. And, of course, we had sex and all that, right? But, yeah, the crazies are out there. And I see that today. Now it's clear, right? And we're fostering. I mean, we're passing the message on to guys. Anywhere you go in the Mgtow sphere, you're going to get these warnings about these women, right? And I had my, I'm still surprised I got out of that one, but I could have been in serious trouble. But it's also the understanding that the facility that she had, the agency, she could have pulled it off even back then in the early 90s, right?
Yeah, they try and do it legally these days. A woman can fuck a guy over good and proper, quite legally, with no repercussions, no consequences on her behalf. And
it's a lot easier these days. Okay?
And they do it. They do it.
Oh, they pull it off. This is the scary part, Shining, is that I have actually known women. Well, I wish I didn't know them, but I have known throughout my travels, women like that with the potential to pull that off. And I've seen them when they get mad, when they got pissed off and they didn't get what they want. That's the sign to look for, is watch how they react,
Yeah.
Because,
Isn't the proverbial gun in the room out of the room now?
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. That's an interesting way of putting it, Joe, actually.
Yeah, and women now want the government thugs in the gun in the room, which we all know the gun in the room is government thugs, to regulate every part of every relationship and forgive them for even and we get that with the woman that thinks it's okay up in Canada to murder ex-boyfriends and husbands and stuff like that. The lawyers, they want to take it out of the and this is why I always say dating is a ritual that leads to marriage. It's the same ritual as marriage. They want to take that ritual and bring it down to the point where your whole dating experience, your whole that whole spirit is regulated by the government. And the gun is the room. The gun in the room is there from the beginning. She can pull that trigger anytime she wants, and they want to make that legal.
Well, in Canada, that's what they're trying to do. John the Other did a couple months ago, or even if not at the beginning of the year, about that trial. I think it was last year, but there's a lawyer here in Canada who's trying to make it legal for women to shoot their abusive partners, to kill them.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, with the kind of advancement that feminism has had in Canada, I mean, we're pretty much, it is true, we're like 10 years ahead of you guys in the States, and maybe 5 years ahead of you guys in the UK, if that's a fair way of gauging it. But the point is, this is what they're aiming for. This is how they slowly break things down, break down your freedoms, right, and start to introduce that. And you get you make a populace as gullible as possible that slips right by them. I mean, look at the Greg Elliott case as a prime example of that. It's a high-profile case for us, right, for freedom of speech. But nobody in Canada, who the hell is Greg Elliott, Alan Elliott, right?
Yeah. Well, it begs the question, at what point did the government decide that they were going to take the woman's side over the man? I mean, was this like something they decided way back in the 60s, 50s perhaps, or or were cases just coming forward into court and then they decided, well, we need to choose either the man or the woman? because obviously it's ongoing, it's continuing. It doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. Meaning the removal of any rights for the man whatsoever. It seems to be totally, as we call it, gynocentric. But I mean, at what point did the government decide, okay, fuck the man, let's just give it all to the woman?
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that's just the way it is, and every time I hear these statements amongst the many, the one way I gauge this is I look at a baby boy who's born today, who's going to live out the next 77 years of his life. I don't believe that anything will change in that boy being born tomorrow for the next 77 years.
Certainly not in our current state of affairs. But
that's right.
I was listening to one conspiracy theorist. He was saying that one of the objectives of the elites was to remove the family unit, and obviously their first goal was to remove the man from the family unit, and then they could control the woman. And that's exactly what's happened. It seems like obviously the women are a lot more weaker when it comes to the government's authority. They'll capitulate when the government tells them to inject their babies and circumcise their babies. And,
Well, there's also a parallel to what you're saying, Shining, and that's from Noam Chomsky. I think I remember a lecture that he did, and he made a very interesting point that they're trying to break up the family. They want you to have, let's say, a family of 4, but they want to divide that family to create one individual taxpayer. And he was explaining that's why you see kids in North American society, they have their own TV in their own room. Everything is individualized, and all the marketing was geared to individuate everything. Okay, because again, if they know that if you keep a family together, a family unit, it's much harder to convince if they're together, right? Because they're working as a unit. But if you can break down, okay, let's say a family of 4 and create 4 separate individuals, well, now you got 4 different taxpayers, okay, and you can pump them up with credit products, right, and keep them in debt. That's just one approach that Noam Chomsky presented, which I think ties right in with this.
Would you say that the current model of society is not working? Would you say that society is falling apart at the moment?
It's a loaded question right now. There's certainly signs that we can say, yeah, there's things falling apart. But on the other hand, I want to go back 15 years as an example, Shining, and go, weren't we saying the same thing as well? Right? Or haven't we been saying, weren't people in the 1950s saying, gee, society is falling apart as well? Right? That's the first thing that comes to mind. But, there are things going on globally, as we're seeing right now, that, it's showing the potential for a third world war. The Ukraine going bankrupt, the invasion, what's going on in Europe.
Afghanistan.
Everything going on. So there's things going on, definitely, right? There's a lot to weigh out.
The industrial military complex. I think JFK coined it. Was it JFK that coined that term?
Which term? Sorry.
The industrial military complex.
I'm not sure. It sounds like he would have been the guy to coin that, but
he made a very jaded speech once. I remember watching it, and he was pertaining to the fact that there were other authorities and powers that was out of his control, and he named it as the industrial military complex. I'm sure some of our viewers and listeners will have a bit more information about that. They'll be chiming in there.
Yeah. I was thinking about the interesting part of we're talking about the gun in the room is extended, but we can see that in they want we see them as false accusation. They want the mere implication of accusation to be a government hammer there. And that's what they're shooting for now. I can't remember the recent one it's the rape thing that says men should just the mere implication the government should just rise to that occasion and say yes, the woman is right, and we're not even going to question whether she's making up a false accusation, which we know it is 47% if we look at the stats. So
listen to how James Denton has put it. He says He says it's hard to believe that so many believe that a mucus lubricated Mgtow is worth all this angst, chase, and problems.
Good one, James.
This is becoming a tradition with James Denton and his commentary. It's brilliant. Thanks, James.
Lubricated Mgtow.
Yeah, I like the well articulated descriptions.
Yeah, I like to use those one-liners when I'm having get-togethers with my PUA buddies from the '80s, and I throw that one-liner just to see their reaction.
Bacteria filled.
Great Soul says that the women are mercenaries in the war against men, and the actual mercenaries are votes. The actual mercenaries and votes is the money. So that's a good comment, I think. You get some really good comments from these guys.
We got an intelligent bunch tuning in. You know, love you guys.
Yeah, some great great comments there. Well done. Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, it looks like Eisenhower was the one that made that speech, according to Swine Dog. Yeah, Eisenhower about the industrial,
military industrial complex. Yes.
Military. Yeah, it was Eisenhower. So.
Eisenhower did that. Okay.
There you go. Any other questions from the chat room there? Questions or anything? Any commentary?
I don't know. I'm hoping the mayor's going to chime up. I know he's listening, Mayor. Mayor, I know you're listening. You better get in on this.
Yeah, Mayor. Let's see something in on chat. Haven't heard from the mayor in quite a while. What's he been up to?
He's watching. He's keeping his head low. He hasn't quite worked out. He hasn't quite worked out whether or not we're worth his.
Yeah, I'd like to know. Jesus, is like my donation going through? What's going on here, man? I want my money's worth.
Shout out to Victor there, or previously a Cyborg.
Okay. Oh yeah, previously Cyborg. Yeah.
Yeah, he's now Dr. Leonard McCoy.
Yeah, he's now Dr. Leonard McCoy from the infamous. Now the I think it's part of Western culture now. I think Star Trek. I think you can't be considered a Westerner unless you know about Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah, some great films.
I'm a doctor, Jim, not a castrated lesbian.
that was pretty good, yeah.
Pretty good. You're Dr.
I don't know where that one came from, but there you go. Must be the coffee, guys.
Yeah, well, Star Trek, the original series was, it did have a lot of political messages in that.
Oh, a lot of messages, a lot of philosophical questions too, as well. A lot of ethics and morals. You know, and I'm talking about the '60s series, right?
Yeah.
You know, with what's that Canadian guy's name? Bill Shatner? Yeah, he's a Canadian guy. I know he's Shatner.
Yeah, but I think the movies, you know, the original. I think you had like the first one, Star Trek the movie, and then you had like the Voyage Home, then the Wrath of Khan, and then I think the first like 5 or 6 movies that had the original casting, they had some very good messages in there, and one of them, which Dr. Leonard McCoy, now previously Cyborg, he touched upon his last video, and he mentioned that the current model of medicine for the West is actually quite barbaric. You know, most of the procedures you have to literally cut open the patient and then take out bits of their body and sew them back up.
Invasive surgery, that
very
was
invasive, and even the treatment for cancer. I mean, to irradiate a person's body, so it destroys, obviously, it destroys the cancer cells, but also all the other cells around it. I mean, that's just.
And the other thing that Star Trek was also promoting indirectly, if you really notice closely, I mean, it's almost blatantly obvious, is multiculturalism.
Yeah.
You know, but multiculturalism amongst species or different beings, right? You know, especially in the movies, right? In the movie versions of Star Trek. But yeah, they were pumping the multicultural message right there. And of course in the 60s, right? When all that was taking place, right? Post-World War II. You know, it's interesting.
Her in there, and she was hot. And you know.
Oh yeah, Captain Kirk fucking the green bitch. Yeah, I remember that from Eddie Murphy.
That was an alien, I think.
The alien bitch.
Putting on his shoe. The door would open and give the shh sound, and then he was putting on his shoe and getting out of the bed.
Really? Is that how they did it?
That's all it did. Yeah.
Well, multiculturalism has been in the YouTube limelight lately. I say multiculturalism.
What's going on?
Well, a lot of people are saying, oh, look at the immigrants are bringing in their culture. And I think multiculturalism is a fantastic thing. I mean, I live in a very mixed city, and I've also lived in a very singular culture cities as well. And I've always found that the mixed cities are much, much better. I mean, when I lived in an all-white area, you know, you got racism against anyone that wasn't white. And when I lived in an all-Asian area, you got racism against people that weren't Asian. So whenever it's been mixed, it's always just like the neighborhoods are quieter, the nicer, and the shops, and just just working and living in a multicultural city. For me, I think is much better than a singular culture. But I think the reason why people they have this opinion of multiculturalism is because they live in places like London and New York. And big cities like
Toronto.
It's really fucked up there. I mean, I know it's screwed up. I mean, you've got like obviously black on black crime, these types of things, but I don't think it's because of multiculturalism. I think it's just because that area's fucked. London's fucked and New York is fucked. I mean, I wouldn't live there. I've stayed there many times, visited there many times, but. Yeah.
It's gonna vary from city to city. I mean, American version of multiculturalism has their version, just as Canadian multiculturalism has its own version, and the UK, namely London. I'm looking at London and Toronto, very similar, okay, and also adopting, coming from a similar culture, so to speak. I mean, the province of Ontario, in many ways, is still like old England, in Victorian era, really.
Yeah. I don't think you can use these examples as these cities as an examples of a model for a city, because London is not like any other city in the UK. Anyone from the UK will tell you London is like another country. That's true. I mean, I haven't been to London since the early 1990s, and I used to frequently go there. Okay,
and obviously a lot has changed, in London. But you could definitely, I can tell you, Shining, there was definitely a cut as soon as you step outside the M28, right? Is it the M28 or the M25? The M25, you go into Sussex or you go into Crowley, the outskirts of London, it's a totally different country in many respects, right?
And I think New York is the same as well. I think anyone from the US,
once
you go into New York, it's like a totally different. It's not like America. I mean, would you say New York represents America? I don't think anyone would say that.
I go to upper state New York all the time, and the people in upper state New York are definitely so much different in the countryside and the beauty, the grapevines, the whole farming thing is just but when you get down to New York, to Philadelphia, and those condensed areas, Virginia and Washington, and they're all condensed in this little area there, it gets totally bizarre and totally different.
Yeah, the people are colder. They're a lot more. I think they're a lot more hard-hearted, a lot harsher, a lot less altruistic. I've always found that people in big cities are a lot worse in terms of character and quality than people from, for example, smaller towns and villages and.
You can cut the difference thick like a knife. I mean, all it takes is like an hour drive from the city core that I live in. And I'm in a suburb of an inner city of Toronto. As soon as I go north 1 hour, it's a totally different culture, and it's kind of like they're looking at the city going, oh my goodness, and doing face palms in many respects, and I think that pans out in every city, rural to inner city relationships and all that, right? That contrast, it's going to vary through, but I mean. Where I work, for example, where I work now. It's a rural area in many respects, and it's great. It's great to deal with that small town mentality. It's a lot more laid back. It's a lot more comprehensive. And then you have to adjust with the balance. When you have to deal with the city folk and dealing with the country folk, it's interesting. You're saying, Joe?
Go on, Joe.
Yeah,
Sorry, Joe.
Where I live like 40 minutes out of Cleveland. And you go into Cleveland, you want to see some crazy. Yeah, you can go see crazy, you walk around for 20 minutes if you want to see crazy. And you get out like 20 minutes away and it turns to farm. And that's like, it's cool out here. But there's a vast difference between like Cleveland and New York even. New Yorkers look at Cleveland like vacation spot.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I like just doing that, Joe? Shining, it's just hop in my car if I've got nothing to do. There are certain places that I can go an hour's drive north or east or west, okay, where I get that small country, that small town country feel. I can just pull in, sit down, have a coffee or a small bite to eat, and just have a basic exchange with people. That, that in itself it can really make my day, and then just hop in the car and then drive right back.
It makes all the difference.
It's huge, and it puts things. And if you know what you're looking for, or if you're kind of on a quest just to get away for an hour or so,
sometimes it gets bad too. We don't talk to the Southern Ohioers, and they don't like us.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and there's some people you run into, like there's sometimes I go up north and I tell people and they ask me where I'm from and I say, well, I'm from the GTA, don't hold it against me, and they look at me joking. Yeah, it's all joking. Oh, you're one of them. But it's good, at least it gets a conversation going.
And in terms of deciding where you want to live, because obviously we're all about male autonomy here, and we're all about trying to improve men's lives. The people make all the difference of a city. I mean, if you're in a city and everyone's an arsehole, don't stay there, guys. Just get out of there. Move down, move uptown, as they say. Move to the next city. Go to a smaller place where the people are not as big as arseholes. And
Yeah, well, hey, I've been ready to do that for 7 years, Shining. Like I'm psychically detached from where I live in a city, but I have my reasons to be here. One is I'm looking after an aging dad, okay, and I'm running a business. Strictly it. Now, if I had it my way, I'd be about an hour and a half to 2 hours drive north away from in that small town, like I just described, sitting down at my cafe, right, and just talking to the locals, nice and casual, different pace. Yeah, that's very appealing. I mean, it's highly recommended if you're a youngster and you have that means to do something like that, okay, by all means, go for it. Highly recommended. But there's those of us that have those commitments, right?
But could you not
bounce out? Yeah.
I mean, eventually, it's something you could work. I guess you could work towards it. I mean, could you not?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, definitely. And that's just it. It's exactly. Thanks for mentioning that. It is something that's on. It gives me something to live for and a goal to aspire to, right? And I'm making all the necessary steps. And just looking at the progression of events leading up to that. Heck, it could even be, we could be in a position where I could move out with my dad out there, find a place, right? Yeah. And be away from that scenario, sure. But it's under the understanding of the value, like you said, being in a Mgtow scenario, you need to be in a certain area, so to speak, where you can operate as a Mgtow and live the way you want to live, right? Yeah.
And obviously, considering your business, when it's rolling along nicely and you're building up enough capital, you could maybe employ people and you could run the business from uptown.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to be there as much, so you could live there,
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing, Shining, is I talk to my peer group, okay, all the people that I've associated with in my same age group, and the majority of them hate the city that we're living in. We just want to get away. Maybe it's a function of age that we've done our part, both business, professional, and personal, right? And now we're talking about getting property somewhere up north, an hour and a half, again, 2 hours north of the city, right? But, again, there are reasons for that too as well. It's we're living in a city that's been changing dramatically over 10, 15 years, where the city of Toronto is dramatically changed on many planes. 373 condos being built, okay, not to mention the commercial buildings that are being built, and and a little bit of economic suppression going on. A lot of factors.
Yeah. Did we properly address all of our detractors with?
Well, I don't know, Joe. I mean, you seem to be the target now. I mean, X marks a spot, Traversable X there.
Yeah,
I think
people have got the usual way of doing this is addressing with sarcasm, denial. That guy's up. Did we measure up to that by just ignoring the detractors?
Well, I don't know. I need to finish off this echo chamber that everyone's telling me to build. I'm trying to perfect that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're building a bigger echo chamber, and
A
we're
nice
including
big
more
echo
men in
chamber.
there. Yeah.
an,
So
an, an echo chamber that's all inclusive.
yeah, all inclusive. Yeah. So we're building a really huge echo chamber, but we get to pick who's in that echo chamber.
Yeah. An all inclusive selected
an all inclusive echo chamber.
Everyone's invited except for the people that we don't invite.
Yeah. Well, we got segregation of stupid in our
segregation is stupid.
in our echo chamber. Does that make us bigots? We're bigoted against retards and stupid people.
Yeah, we're bigoted against retards and stupid people. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. We aren't the nicest guys, but
oh, we are the nicest guys. Where else are you going to get nice guys like us on the internet?
Of course, we're everything. We're nice guys. We're assholes. We're pricks. That's just on the negative scale. You know what it is? This is what I like to say. We're the real deal. We're not here. This is not a dress rehearsal. We're the real deal. Yeah. Okay. So we have avatars, and some of us have fake names, but underneath it all, we are real men. We're for real. Okay. And if you don't like it, well, you know what I was about to say.
Did we? I'd like to give that.
We're just a bunch of monks, like Male Feeling said there. Yeah, bunch of monks. Yeah, fine, okay. Good to be.
Yeah. What we wanted to do is get to that final response of, "Hey, detractor, fuck you."
Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, I'm a secular monk, man. Fuck. Check out my colors.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
Hey, is Warhorse listening in on this? Hey, Warhorse, are you in the chat room there listening in, bud? Yeah, just trying to pry him out to see if he's probably out riding.
Yeah.
Leave him be, man.
He's monk riding.
He's monk riding, that's right. That's his the monkmobile, right?
On his monk bike.
He's on his monk bike. Yeah, right on, man. Yeah. I was on my Monk Fiat 500 cc rented last week, man. When I went up to the cabin, it was great. Love that little car. Yeah, it reminded me of Europe. I could definitely drive that in let's say a country like the Netherlands, for example. I'm just saying that because of Eric Weingard there.
Oh, yeah.
Eric Weingard, hoe gaat het met jou? Sorry, pardon my Dutch there. Just trying to incite him there.
Eric says, "I want Warhorse."
He wants a warhorse, yeah.
He wants the warhorse or a warhorse.
Yeah, he wants a warhorse. Yeah.
Or the warhorse.
I think it means he wants the warhorse.
Oh, the warhorse. Okay.
Okay. Oh well. What's been going on in your week, Joe? I know you're the you've been a center of attention for a little while now. So how's that? Are you dealing with all that stuff?
I properly addressed everything I had to properly address, and I think I'm back to normal. We were talking earlier. I had an infection, and I had a personality change this week. I think.
Oh, nice.
I wasn't aware of. I was grumpy, and then I was overly humorous, and then I was overly this, and then finally, when I modulate back into, the normality of my life, I looked back and said, yeah, I did have that personality change, and that happens to us a lot when we, you get sick or you get you're taking a prescription and you go, oh yeah, I got to watch for that. So I think did I say fuck you to my detractors enough?
No, you haven't said. I
don't think you've said enough, Joe. But just keep hampering, and eventually they'll get the message.
Eventually, we'll get there. We'll get to the conclusion.
Yeah.
If I want to be celibate, I can be celibate, and I don't have to be gay.
And you can always use the polite Christian way of telling somebody to go fuck themselves, which is be fruitful and go multiply.
Yeah, be fruitful and go multiply. That would be more of a monk thing to say.
That's a monk thing, yeah. Be fruitful and go multiply. That's code for go fuck yourself. In monk talk, right? Be fruitful and go multiply, and of course you hear the choir in the background. Remember, Joe? We were talking once, and hi, brother Joe. Yes, we are here in the Mgtow monastery, and we have to keep quiet. And then you just fucking broke out, and you go, "Well, this is fucking driving me nuts." Hey, this is a good response for for all those detractors of the Mgtow monks. We're having fun here with us.
Yeah, no
So you
girls
were a
allowed.
real gentleman there, Joe. My respect. Yeah, you're getting respect from Eric Weingart in the chat room.
Yeah, I try to be a gentleman, but sometimes they go
Yeah.
way beyond, and the questions they ask are not even logical. They're just saying
Yeah.
what they want out of you, and they want me to
Mm-hmm.
be, like I said, so many things that are just bizarre, and I'm just Joe. I'm an electrician from Ohio. What do you want? I don't, I don't do certain things because I see Mgtow as a chess place. That's the way I see it. I'm allowed to think that way.
Well, I thought when I first came into Mgtow, and all the research that I was doing on there, and for the past 9 months, I mean, that's what I thought it was about. I mean, since when did it not become like that?
Right, yeah. When I first came into Mgtow, and that was a while ago, we looked around and all the guys kind of agreed that there was a certain chastity that we put in our lives to manage this thing. And if you took a 60-day break, a 90-day break, a year, you would come to the point in realization, and that's what this is. You would come to the realization that you were addicted to that. And then that enabled you to shed more of that blue pill and come more into the red pill and be a better Mgtow because you get your independence for that. And what I found at the end of that process, some men said, "Oh, this shit is good. No woman in my life. There's no one throwing my stuff. There's no one stealing my stuff. I'm not buying burgers every day for some woman. I'm buying one burger instead of 2 burgers." And they stayed there, and I stayed there because that was better than all that garbage before.
Yeah. Hey, Joe. Sorry to interject there. Anime Indian would like to join in the hangout.
Okay, yeah, he can. Let me send him one out. You want to send him one out, or?
I'm not able to because I'm on my phone here. Remember my laptop. I have to hold off until Boxing Day.
Yeah, we had the problem with him. It won't come up in this box every time I try to type.
Excuse me.
Let me try again.
While that's going on, I'm just looking at the chat room here, and we've got HD Failure just gave us notice. We've been looking at the news. At least 13 injured as blast destroys building facade in Belgium. So something's, if anybody's tuned into the news right now, what's going on in Belgium? Apparently there's been a terrorist attack. We've just been updated by HD Failure. I just thought I'd mention that as we're speaking.
Attack. Is that more gun control terrorist attack or?
No, this is in Belgium. In Europe.
Belgium. Yeah, there's been a lot of that lately. Gosh.
Yeah. So this is just an update, guys.
Yeah, they're trying to work up. They're trying to. Well, it seems like all the conspiracy theorists they say that. Well, first they said it was like 2011 is going to be the year. Then it was 2012, and every year they put it forward, but. Yeah, I mean, slowly.
Yeah, and then 2014 is when the lizards were supposed to shed their skin and leave scales all over the streets and all that. Yeah, I heard all kinds of shit there. Yeah. Okay, the lizard people. Okay.
Let's go.
Yeah, but it seems like there's going to be something kicking off very soon. All the war hawks, they've all been. Pumping up the rhetoric for war, and I don't know. So I'm going to put my neck out there and say that it's going to be another false flag attack.
Yeah. So who do they blame for this?
Yeah, obviously they're going to say it's the Muslims. The Muslims have done it.
Oh,
it's Al Qaeda. No, it's ISIS these days. It used to be the communists, and now it's Al Qaeda, it's the Muslims. So watch out for those Muslims, guys. Watch out for those Muslims.
Yeah.
Hey, I haven't had to deal with anything here in my city as yet. But I'm not anticipating anything. Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't want the same thing to happen. The American government, the UK government didn't want the same thing to happen, which happened during their invasion of Iraq. Obviously, there were like a million protesters, a lot of backlash due to the illegal invasion. And then it turns out that their grounds for invading Iraq was totally false. And they knew it from the beginning, so they didn't want the same thing happening. So Some people were predicting there's going to be some false flag attacks. There's, people are going to get killed. I mean, whatever side you're on, 9/11, September the 11th, a lot of people do believe, and I'm one of those that said it's very skeptical that a bunch of come on, let's face. I don't know if you've met any Muslims, but they can't even get together to open up a little mosque, and now they're gonna bomb. They're gonna ram 5 planes into New York City. I mean, the Muslims I know certainly not capable of that, but they were all saying.
And certainly the Muslims I know as well, shining. The majority of them are, they're walking with, they've got their heads between, not between their legs. I'm not saying that. I'm using the wrong metaphor here, but you get the drift. They're just appalled at what's happening, right? And they feel a sense of shame, right?
Yeah, like they're partly responsible.
Yeah.
Transfer, it's me. It's Indian.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, I see a.
Yeah,
hey, Anima.
This is my main. This is the main account. This is the master account.
Oh,
sometimes,
okay.
Yeah, sometimes Google Plus basically will let me use my Indian account. Sometimes it just forces when I'm on YouTube. It forces me to go to L.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we know who you are.
Yeah, you got to kind of go on to one this chat on Mgtow on the Google Plus, so I can just kind of add you from here to this from Anime Indian, and then it'll just kind of go right. And then every time if I type in an I, your name will come up, or an A, your name will come up.
All right.
Yeah. So how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I woke up early today, which is nice. I was gonna actually join up earlier, but the thing is, it was like almost 8 o'clock. You guys weren't there, so I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah, Joe, you haven't explained. You haven't explained why we're 1 hour late today.
Me and Zeta had talked about this, about moving it back
that's right.
an hour because of the West Coasters. Because it's 11 here. That means it's like 7 o'clock in the morning there. Nobody wants to get up on 7 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, definitely not.
Well,
yeah, that's right. And my apologies to Eric. Yeah, to Eric Weingart. He had asked me. He had sent me a letter. My apologies, Eric. Sorry. I just wanted to say to him. But yeah, actually, it's a good idea to get it started at 12 to get the people at the West Coast.
Is Eric from Holland?
Eric is in Holland. I think in southern Holland. I think he can explain whereabouts he's at.
Oh, Holland, Norway. Same thing.
He's from the Netherlands. Technically
Oh,
speaking.
okay.
My goodness. I mean, it's a country that's 70% below seawater.
So not Holland's, not Norway. No, the Netherlands. Well, he doesn't mind anyway. I think he thinks that we're all like one nation here. There's no borders, there's no countries where Mgtow's concerned.
Oh no, right. Where we're at, I mean, there are no borders. I mean, we do go at each other's throats every now and again. It's just the nature of who we are and what we are, and it can get out of spec. Just as much as we can do our worst, we can also do our very best too, as well. Full spectrum.
On the topic of monk again, I mean, I would actually think it would be kind of funny if Mgtow actually had monasteries.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah,
with robes and stuff.
Oh, my house is a monastery.
Nothing. Like satanic robes. We can have those satanic robes.
Yeah.
We can have. And we'll grow little goatees, in the shape of a horn or something like that. Just to freak, and then go for a photo shoot, and freak out everybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, we can have Mgtow tattoos, just the logo on just the logo somewhere, or we can just have it on the robes.
Yeah, we'll have a tattoo, mother, and underneath it, yeah, right.
Yeah, right. How do you feel about the Mgtow month thing, Anime?
Yeah, good question.
I think in a collapse, we should probably use that, because the thing is, in a collapse, I think we should, because the thing is, is single men who aren't married are going to be looked at as he's dangerous, he's going to shoot us, and things like that. And to the kind of centuries, we're more of a threat. And so I'm thinking, in Vault Mgtow, I coined the idea that, we make our own settlement, make our own little monastery. This way we don't have to marry. This way we just we're monks. We're not a threat to you.
Yeah, and if you listen to CS's latest video on if the collapse came, a soft collapse, a hard collapse, or that sort of stuff, women and children first. But if we were monks, it would be women, children, and religious figures, monks, people that are altruistic in nature usually get included in that group instead of a warring fashion, and they're not labeled as a combatant.
It's militarily aged men are basically we're all going to get shot down.
Yeah. Hey, what is military age for you guys in the States there?
I think it's 18.
To I'm just curious about the cutoff limit.
I don't know.
Cutoff age.
Yeah, that's 42. That's 17.
At 42, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
17 and a half.
I mean, but the thing is, they could
42.
they could teach an 11-year-old to shoot a gun. I mean, look at the guys in Africa. I mean, they're carrying AK-47s.
Oh, yeah, the kids that they just, these orphan kids are very.
Collapse, it would probably be like 10 to 42, if you think about it.
Yeah, 12-year-old boys is kind of the age where all boys kind of wake up at 12 years old, where there's a different sort of awakening in their lives.
Yeah, it's like the first time we're working up to reality. I mean, sometimes like it's earlier, like 9, sometimes just 12.
Yeah.
It's just like you kind of break out. It's like, what the fuck? This is. I'm not a drone anymore.
Yeah,
but
I found myself like running around in the woods more and kind of trying to experience that thing when I was 12 and looking at the
problem is, at that age, we're not being taught what is the rules of the world. What is like at that age, like to me, I would think that's the age where to me, ideally, when you want to talk to your son about hypergamy, talk R versus K, alpha, beta, because the thing is, like, he's just going to save himself in the long run. Because that's kind of like the point where basically in the trivium, in classical education, where they teach logic. That's basically when we learn the rules of the world.
Yeah. 12 is sort of that age where the boy is supposed to go off with his father and do that rite of passage. Somewhere between that rite of passage has to happen. In a military collapse, the rite of passage would be an acceptance by the whoever is the authority at that point.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? Yeah.
It could be like a gang leader basically telling. It could be your initiation. It could be finishing military training. I mean, I know in the Christian communities, I don't think we have. You guys don't have that. I mean, I know in the Indian communities we had ceremonies for that, but the thing is, because of the boarding schools and loss of culture, we don't have that rite of passage.
Yeah.
So basically, it's not being practiced anymore.
In the Catholic community, we have those things, but they're very traditionalist and warped. Like your what do they call this? Like the stations or something, or catechism. The catechism is what you go through.
Okay, yeah. Because I know in the Jewish community you have the what is it called again?
For what? What age? A certain rite or ceremony?
Yeah, they get.
They got several.
Circumcised at age.
There's a circumcision.
It's bar mitzvah. Yeah, it's the bar mitzvah.
Bar mitzvah. Yeah, that's it.
Bar mitzvah. Yeah.
That happens at age 13.
Yeah, I mean, I think as men, I think we kind of need that.
Yeah, women have that too. Women get that more often than men because they have these sweet 16s. They have their in the Hispanic community, it's the wearing of the shoe, isn't it? And what else do they have? They have the princess thing, and then they got the wearing of the shoe in the sweet 16, and then they get their period.
Yeah, but the thing is, for me, I don't know, because the thing is, like, some guys at that age are just not mature enough to think for themselves.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it does. 18 does seem like the right area, but the thing is, there's so many people who are still basically thinking on emotions, not using their head.
Oh, there's 32-year-old kids. We get kids right up to 40 years old. I think these days, as people become less and less dependent, I think generally people are forgetting what it is to be like a man or like a woman. It's all confused. All this female nature, male nature. Nobody knows what it is. It's something that's talked about quite a lot amongst Mgtow, but outside of Mgtow, it's we're a very confused society. I mean, what's feminine? What's masculine? Feminism is nothing at all about being female or being the opposite of masculine. It's just so. I think it's just such a confusing time. I mean, when you talk about the rite of passage for men and the rite of passage for women, we just don't know what it is anymore. I mean, I think the fact that
to me, it's kind of more like at a mental stage, basically where
I agree.
And that's kind of like it's got to be earned.
It is a mental stage. It's a state of mind where you're gonna stand up for
yourself.
You can stand up for yourself. Meaning yourself as in a man.
You're not gonna be dependent. You're not gonna act like you gotta rely on someone. You're not gonna like whine for anything. And after you just basically that reality just breaks, like you can't be dependent anymore. That you have to do shit for yourself.
Yeah, you get
and
a lot
of time.
You get a lot of mummy's boys around here. A lot of guys that don't like to talk about women because they think that we're talking about their mum, talk about their mother. We're not talking about your mother, guys. Your mum didn't even come into the conversation. And then of course there's a lot of guys that are very feminine-minded men. Men that are so easily upset about the smallest thing, and guys that just are not used to talking to other guys. I think very weird what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's weird.
And then of course you get the opposite side where women try to compete with men. Women. He spilled his beer there.
Never grow up. They never go through that whole stage of realization.
But women want to have the authority and the responsibility of men without the consequences. I mean, that's one of the things we talk about.
That's kind of like a childlike way of thinking. I mean, when you were a boy, and like I was a kid, I mean, you wanted to do stuff and get away with it all the time.
Well, it's like they want to wear the oversized shoes. They want to wear the daddy pants that daddy wears when he makes decisions, and that's really what I'm seeing here. Is these little girls dressing up like little, in oversized daddy's clothes, right? Trying to pretend to be something that they're not, and as a result, and they don't want to assume the consequences for their actions. Simple as that.
Well, I'm saying children in general, they just think like that.
Yeah. It is. It's childish as hell.
Well, regardless of gender, that's the way they think.
Yeah.
Right. Boys want to eventually take over their father. That last rite of passage is to be stronger than your father.
And some boys, they don't hit that stage of realization of like you can't rely on anyone, and basically they act like women in authority positions.
Yeah, that's a malformed. That's what we're talking about. The emaciated males raised by single baby mothers usually get a very malformed idea of how they should pass
it's not just the single mother guys. I mean, I've seen guys who have very successful fathers, but they're kind of like super Ks. They're fathers, but the thing is, like, the sons, they're like hard Rs.
They're hard R's, yeah.
Yeah, they act like women.
Yeah. Now, could that be if their father was a hard R?
Well, to me, it's just like it's R versus K. I mean, when you're basically in an environment where like everything's plentiful, you don't have to work for everything. You get lazy, you become like an R.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You depending on your culture where you live,
We were talking about this earlier, Joe? Remember earlier on in the program what you're mentioning?
Yeah,
being mentioned here.
Be about he was a white LA rapper that lived on the coast. He lived in a really upscale. His father was running and he had no idea what actually being a rapper meant. And I can't remember the name. It was a really funny movie. And he says, "Yeah, we got the same problems. We got people trying to walk past our private beach all the time." It's like, Yeah, so yeah, they become very unaware of what's going on in reality. And is that a social norm when we talk about that? The bar of reality being a, what is the norm? Where does the norm fall?
Well, actually, you know what? I have an idea from that. I mean, that idea was coined by some there's a writing in Christianity called the City of God, where it talks, which is one of the key things in Christendom. It talks about the earthly city, it talks about the heavenly city. Now, to me, earthly values are basically reality, just getting yourself up to reality. I mean, dealing with reality. And the heavenly values are basically, I wanna place myself into like to an unachievable standard.
Right, the deity, the emulation of a
Yeah.
deity. And
I
when
mean,
you
the
start
thing is,
emulating, there's certain things, hot is hot, don't touch hot. And
yeah,
we learn those things from our parents and everything. But there's a lot of things that are hot in this world that are invisible hot, like girls,
yeah,
women, and stuff
yeah,
that they don't teach them.
yeah. No, there's some, and the thing is, the heavenly city, which is the city everyone's trying to go into, it's not achievable.
Right, it's not achievable. It's fake. It's metaphysics.
Yeah, yeah, it's metaphysical. I mean, and that's an old Christian concept. That's written by
Well, them are all the rituals we talk about in here, the rituals that are malformed and in society that we talk about. That these are the rituals of dating that you're going to have to do because dating is pretty much a tribal ritual of Christianity most of the time. There's a ring, there's an acceptance of her. There's, you're going to go to her house, you're going to walk up, you're going to carry flowers, you're going to, try to well, try to
yeah,
impress her, show her your status, all that
yeah,
I
stuff.
think virtually every religion, Joe, has that right. The Buddhists have their own version, just as I'm sure the Muslims have. I mean, just go to a
uh,
Muslim wedding, you can see the difference there.
I know the
But at the
Buddhist
bottom
is
line, it all comes down to the same thing.
the Buddhists. I know it's enlightenment or like
Yeah.
achieving nirvana, and I know in Mgtow it's kind of freaky. But the thing is, like, we have self-actualization. But the thing is, the difference between us and everyone else is that self-actualization is achievable. It's earthly.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
in
it
it's
is.
in with the realm of earth and within the realm of reality. And people, they're trying to like I know, like, I had this conversation with in like my live stream with about alpha, beta, R versus K, and then like someone I I forgot the name of the guy, but the thing is, like, he was saying, what about Zeta? And like I'm thinking, I thought about it, and like I'm thinking, no, Zeta is gamma. It's like Zeta doesn't exist because even if you go beyond human, everything still, you can't go beyond you can't go beyond reality. You just can't, and that's why I don't put Zeta in that little chart I made in my
Yeah,
Maybe that's a
video.
good thing. I mean, that's why I nicknamed myself Zeta.
yeah. Well,
Zeta
zeta is a
X.
transcendence to a state, isn't it?
Yeah.
More, it's
It could
more of
mean many things.
a
Yeah.
serenity state and stuff. You can achieve a serenity state that is more peaceful and serene. But omega would be interesting too. You become the omega, and
I thought Omega was basically the bottom of the barrel.
well, it depends which society or group you're looking at. The outsider, the mega is always the outsider. That's the way I think about the omega. He's the male wolf that says, "Hey, he's going to compete with. Eventually, he will make
Oh,
his
okay,
in
okay,
a wolf
okay.
pack. He's going to eventually go out. Then he's going to try come back, and he's going to try to compete with the alpha. But the omega has to learn from the outside, not from the matriarchal inside.
Okay. No, I thought that was I in my video I put that guy as the gamma,
Yeah.
but
Now
because the
in the
thing is, to
lion
me, I
pack,
think
it's the guy that can't keep count.
Omega's last. It's the bottom of the barrel to me. And like Omega's to me is like the guy who can't compete at all. I mean, he can't. He has no ego.
Yeah,
He acts like a
that's
woman.
why that's why he's on the outside because he has to go learn that and then develop those skills, do that rite of passage, then come back into the pack, or try to reestablish his position in the pack, or make his own pack. Now the Omega has the option of always making his own pack.
Okay, well, I thought the Omega was a different thing, but oh well.
It depends, yeah, which group you're looking at, whether it's the fuzzy white owl, the cat, the bird, or the
I'm
wolf.
looking at what's alpha. I'm looking. Well, I put the chart in my chat, in the chat, so you can look at that.
Yeah, I'll go take a look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's two charts. There's two charts. There's the pyramid, and then there's like another chart that's R versus K relativity.
Yeah, Island Cyclone says, doesn't the Omega mate while the Alpha is on guard? Yeah, the Alpha is always going to be on guard, whether it's a monkey, a wolf. He has to guard his. The Alpha has to guard. The Omega doesn't have that obligation to sperm guard. So he's in a better position. Yeah.
Okay. I thought the Omega was basically the beta's beta. But okay, whatever.
Yeah. My beta was always the secondary. I sort of put him on the second. The Omega's different. He's just I don't know. I always thought of him as the outsider. The Fonzie, the Fonzie. He was on the outside and he wasn't accepted by the group.
I thought that guy was the Gamma, but oh well.
The Gamma's an interesting.
Yeah. Well, because the Gamma's, he's lone wolf. He's mentally superior, but the thing is, he doesn't have that social skills.
No social skills, yeah.
And that's kind of like why and he's highly independent, and that's kind of like why I think the Omega is the Gamma.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going off topic a bit.
What are you guys talking about?
Yeah, what are you guys talking about? Jeez, all these hierarchies and classifications. My goodness.
Hey, we're trying to better define our hierarchies.
Yes.
Okay, it sounds to me like you've classified men.
Welcome to the Mgtow Monk lecture hall. Yes, we are having this discussion right now.
Like Latin numerals.
Well. Yeah, no, but the thing is, if you watch the video, I explained the whole chart.
Yeah. Okay, who made this up?
Me. I made this chart up.
Oh, so you designed a system to categorize different male types.
Yeah, no, I used what is alpha, what is beta, and R versus K in that video.
Oh, now when you get to your chart, it would be an interesting cross-reference if you put the level 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can cross-reference the 1, 2, 3 and how they apply it to the, and then you can kind of get an idea on that chart what is needed.
Okay, so we need to watch Anime Indian's video to understand this.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you have it.
Well, yeah, I haven't watched it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I posted it on like the Google Plus community, so you should be able to find it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not in any Google Plus community.
Yeah,
I've been kicked out of all of them.
From all of them.
I've been kicked out of all of them for just being way too monk-like.
Yeah.
Male feelings, you can't transcend the hierarchy because the problem is basically the hierarchy is built on K versus R selected species. It doesn't work. I mean, even if you were to go above true alpha, you would just make and it'd say like, let's call that guy his meta. But the thing is that, and he reproduces. Let's say he reproduces by making another version of himself. I mean, he would still be selected. His survival pressures would still have to be R versus K. Whether he survived, it still depends on that. So there's no way you can transcend the hierarchy. I mean, even if you would become transhuman too, you would still have to.
Oh yeah.
Evolution, the surviving would still be dependent on R versus how much of an R you are or how much of a K you are. It's still dependent.
Okay. Yeah, Male Feelings says an interesting thing when we get this with the separation of the PUA and the Mgtow, and he says transcending the hierarchy, its definition is in reference. Some men will use in reference to the female, and some men will use in reference to no female.
Okay.
So it becomes very Mgtow different at that point. If
Well, the
it's a
thing is,
tell.
females are naturally are. So basically, you look at that chart, you can imagine where they are, and this is just basically a R versus K chart. It's a quality chart. It's a fitness chart. Who's the most fit of them all?
Yeah, yeah. Veritech Ace wanted us to ask, does anybody know what's going on with Nico taking a hiatus? I called it a sabbaticus. Please tell us about the drama. See, there's a presupposition in that that line of thinking that Nico's taking a sabbatical because of stress or because of messenger or because of they're automatically doing a false equivocation with the natural stresses that's around Mgtow and the differences between
Oh, it's
men.
a sensationalism.
Yeah, it's sensationalism. Nico's taking a sabbaticus, a hiatus, because he's worked himself into a new job that
there's a lot of shit going on with the NHS at the moment.
yeah,
There's some
Nico needs a
protests.
sabbatical. He just needs that, and we all need that sometimes. It has little or nothing to do with Mgtow and the different personality types in here. Nico's just taking a sabbatical for his health, and I think CS. Somebody mentioned CS was doing something too, and I'm sure it's just pressures from the outside universe that we have to live in.
Speaking of Nico, what's happened to Steve Hoker?
I invited Steve on.
Come on, Steve. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, come on, Steve.
Yeah.
Let's throw down.
Yeah, get the throw down on, man. Come on, man.
I think Steve is being polite, and if he is, hey, thanks, Steve,
Well, no, it's being polite. He's accepting the invitation. Come on,
Right.
man.
Well, maybe the guy doesn't want to talk. Leave him be. I mean, he's got to come up with. He's going to come up with several videos throughout the week. His rant videos there. Which,
we shall not leave him be. We shall hassle him, and
we shall harass him, and we shall
shame him, and we shall do all those favorite things of Mgtow.
Yeah, we do that because we love Steve.
We love Steve. And
there you go, Steve.
It's just not the same without the Kyle versus Steve Hoker. We need to get Kyle the Horner on, Steve Hoker on. Get a real conversation going. Get some finalization. Get some closure on this deal.
Yeah. Yeah, guys are going to out of Mgtow. Nico's going to come in, and if you guys, any of you guys that hang around here long enough, you're going to meet 100 guys in your lifetime. And what I like to say about guys that move in and out of Mgtow. It's not like you lost a friend or someone went away. You're going to see an old friend down the line. And
it's a good way to look at it. I mean, just the short time I've been here, I've seen channels go. I mean, one of the guys I miss, I know his name isn't passed on. I miss Knowledge is Power. Yeah. Fantastic guy. He had a fantastic attitude towards Mgtow. Very, very positive. A great asset to Mgtow personally.
Socrates, yes.
Socrates, yes. Yeah. There's gonna be, two guys just contacted me this week and said hello, and that one was Law stopped by my account and a private account and said hello, and he said,
"Whoa, Law, you heard from Law?"
Yeah.
Patrick Henry, right on, man. Missed that guy.
He messaged Messenger too, and he said hello to Messenger. He said hello to me, and
I've
seen two of the old. This week I seen she wasn't very popular, but she said hello to me this week. It was Ross K came around, and then another girl.
I saw Drew this week, and he actually joined one of my live streams.
Yeah, so those guys come around, and they are Mgtow still, and that's the deception point. Just because you rotated through the Mgtow atmosphere around here, it doesn't mean when you left you didn't. You're still a Mgtow. You're always going to be a Mgtow.
Yeah.
And we're gonna in this time as we grow, you're gonna see more and more thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of men that you're gonna know all these names, and then at a certain point you're gonna say to yourself, "I know too many names." Oh God, and it's like that's a good point, isn't it? That's a good thing.
Yeah. It's always nice to see the new channels come in. You know, like I mentioned, well, last week we had See Them Turn, Welsh Mgtow. Yeah, our only Welsh Mgtow. That's only Welsh channel Mgtow that I know of.
A Welshman. Jeez, I might be related to him.
You might be.
I might be related. Well, I'm part Welsh too as well. I've got some Welsh. I'm of the Evans clan, apparently. You know, but that's not my last name, obviously. You know, it's just. No, that's good. A fellow countryman.
And today, and today I mentioned Gospel Authentic. Look out for his channel.
Yeah. So
he definitely has a unique approach and refreshing actually. When I saw that video of his, so definitely worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, which one? Gospel or
Gospel I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're gonna see as we lose one in the general, as I see it, we're gonna pick up 10.
That's right, and out of those 10, maybe 1 or 2 will be like the next TFM or a Barbarossa. You know, that's what's happening. I think we're on the lookout right now, and I think this question was posed earlier on to me this week: the direction of Mgtow, where Mgtow is going, and this kind of ties in, guys, from what we're talking about. You know, how guys have come and gone. You know, I mean, guys that come to mind for me are Oakshard. Remember him? Some of us. Oakshard put out some content, and he hasn't. You know, I actually took a look at Mgtow's from a year ago, right when they stopped producing. I remember one guy, Mickey Shrugged. Remember that guy who was going at it with Mickey Shrugged
thing going? That 50s I love that.
Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, he had a thing going with Stardust. Okay, that was one of the original fiascos about a year or 2 years ago.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with going out at Stardust.
Yeah, no. Hey, that's where it all started. But
so,
you know, I mean,
was he right? Is that what he was saying now? Okay.
Well, he presented some really. I mean, you know, he's a kid. I should say, he's in his 30s at the time, right? But you know, he presented some viable arguments. You know, he gave Stardust a run for his money, right? And his arguments were solid, but then again, you know, he did a couple of videos and then he stopped producing. He stopped producing content. But again, it ties in with that wave of guys coming and going. You know, my favorite one is obviously Patrick Henry and Life After Women. Okay. You want to talk about a Mgtow monk, okay? But you know, remove all the stigmas with what a monk is. You know, living on steam and crackers and wearing robes. That's just a bunch of bullshit. You know, live on steam and crack. I mean, people are fucked in that sense. But you know, Patrick Henry, from my understanding, and I'd love to hear from him again. Now, there's a guy who was taken right through to the ringer. Okay, with his marriage and his divorce, okay, more than likely to the verge of suicide, and turned his life around completely. You know, he got into meditation, probably still doing it. I mean, the man is a living embodiment of a Mgtow. You know, who went through hell and literally back.
Here's a question: why do channels stop making videos? I mean. Even if they feel like they've run out of material or they've reached like a creative stoppage. I mean, they could like pop into our hangouts. They could like make the odd comments, or you see them around. I mean, only when people they're partaking in our community.
Well, to me, I think they just want to practice Mgtow in real life.
Yeah, they want to go there. Practice Mgtow and still hang out with us. Yeah. I mean,
but it depends on the individual.
Get off the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes just like like last night when I was talking to Dutch, and it's just like me and like some of the other guys were just talking, and I'm just like, at the end of it, I was like, you know what, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I know.
I'm tired of this conversation.
I know, but sometimes conversations are just ridiculous. I mean, when they start talking about just anything, I mean, I've been on Hangouts, and as soon as I've come on, they say, okay, don't talk about anything serious, Shining. In fact, don't talk about Mgtow.
Yeah, really.
So Mgtow hang out on there. Yeah, nice one.
Yeah.
I mean, you can stop your video making, but normally when guys do that, you see them around and they'll make the odd comment, or they'll. They'll jump in the or they'll at least keep in touch with some of the guys. Even if they don't want to make any contribution to the thing you see. No, you'll see them on Skype or on Hangouts.
It seems like leave your videos on the internet. So basically, so people can find them.
Yeah, give them,
or at least, or give them to someone else.
yeah,
Like
give your
like
password to your buddy. You know, give your password to your
yeah,
buddy and
or
say protect and tell them. You know, because sometimes the truth of the matter is some of
well,
us go away for reasons
you could
that we
just do
can't help.
like you could do what like Nico did to Dark Knight. I mean,
Okay,
look at
okay. My point is, yeah, live, because you made a good point. That he says that they just want to leave Mgtow. They don't just want to talk about. But the thing is, one of the things about living Mgtow is having Mgtow friends. You know, having guys you can bounce off, you can talk to, and keep you in check when you're thinking about making that pass with the girl down at the little local shop there. You know, having Mgtow friends is one of the most important factors of keeping your mind straight, you know, because let's face it, you know, society these days screws with your mind. You know, a lot of gynocentric culture everywhere, you know, in your films, in the music, everywhere you go, it's all engineered to mess you up in the head, you know, as a masculine male. And having Mgtow friends, you know, masculine men, men that you know you can at least talk with, if not spend time with, hang out.
Doesn't that say a lot? If
like
if you were around here and didn't make a
like
friend,
that one video Monkey had uploaded, where he was responding to one of his commenters, a woman, just recently. I mean, to me, like I write in the comment section, it's like my mind just shut off because the high pitched voice of the comment. For some reason, I don't know. It just my ability to think just shut off. Because the voice he was using to make the comments sound pleasant, and my brain just automatically just shut off and wanted me to listen and wanted me to basically it was kind of like drawing me in. And this is the worst part about Mgtow is that your biology is designed to succumb to women. It literally is designed that way.
Well, my friend, you need more training. You need more Mgtow monk training, and then that'll go. That'll dissipate slowly. No, seriously though, I think after a while that you do lose that allure, you know, that women can give off.
Well, that's why we say we don't take women in these groups, because the first thing that happens is all the guys start acting that way. You notice a very different reaction from Shining, Muse, Zeta, Messenger. We just immediately want them out. We don't want that. We know what's going to happen, and if you're still reacting to that, and you're getting drawn into the what do they call them, the sirens of that.
Yep.
Then that's something you maybe want to work on.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I thought that's what Mgtow was about all along. It was about trying to condition yourself, or trying to find a medium where you can navigate a viable lifestyle where you're no longer worshipping women, you're no longer a slave to the government, you're no longer this battery that's plugged in and discarded as soon as
you're not a slave to your emotions.
You're not a slave. Now, if you're doing that online here, can you imagine walking into a store or your job site and everything? You're doing that there too.
Yeah.
In a
but
more
the thing
real...
is, on the internet, you feel like no one's watching you.
Yeah, but people are watching you. They're watching every single little. They're sub-dissecting inflections.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of like when you put on the mask. It's like you're a different person. You don't have to basically put up a facade. And that's kind of one of the things about Mgtow is like we get used to this whole thing that like we can talk shit.
Oh, that depends.
And like about other things, but the thing is, like, I think some Mgtow when they go to get off the computer, they kind of simp out sometimes. But the thing is, they know I don't.
Well, them guys are.
And then it's like, why did I simp out? Why? I know this is wrong.
Yeah, because the mask provided that, and you know these hangouts are a good way to judge people too. I don't know who the avatar is, or whether that's a character whether that's the real person. But when you get people in, and that's why we invite people into the Hangouts after they argue with us or something, because we get to know the real person then. We can see and we can judge the reactions that they make then, and you know, the vocal qualities of here, you can't cover that stuff up anymore. You have to, you know, you're going to let out, or the person that's in here is going to let out some secrets about himself.
Well, it's just reflective of the channels we have. You know, some guys, they keep strong on the Mgtow motto. You know, a lot of the information that they've garnered from all the videos they've watched, they take it in, they internalize it, and they live it. And there's other guys, it's for them, it's just a bit of entertainment. And as soon as the internet's off, they're back on their old lifestyle, the old simping, lifestyle.
I think there are guys who internalize it, but the thing is, like, they know they can't act upon it to a degree. Like, you can rebuild your life, you can restructure your life, you cannot date, but that lure is still going to be there.
That's all right. I mean, take the good, leave the bad. Whatever you can implement of the value of the philosophies and ideologies you take, and for a lot of people, it's just doing it one step at a time.
Right. Yeah. It's take the good, leave the bad. No one's asking you. If you're reading a book, you're going to get the same thing. You're not going to agree with everything in the book, but you can apply some of those practical things that people say in books to your life. It doesn't mean they're right 100% of the time. It doesn't mean they're wrong 100% of the time. And it does, your individualism, what applies to you in your situation, because man, that changes a lot. But
that's exactly right. That's exactly. I mean, when guys have come across Mgtow, we're all going to be in different circumstances and situations, and we're going to find different value in it. I mean, sometimes you'll come back to the same video or the same content, and you'll pick up on maybe some parts that perhaps you wasn't able to understand or implement or use at that time. I mean, it's a constant developing ideology, and I think people add to it all the time.
Yeah. There's sort of you're building up. You're not understanding this. Really, you're saying I don't understand. And you have to give yourself time to understand when you first come into this. I had those moments a lot, those wake up in the middle of the night moments where oh yeah, I understand what he said about that now and how it applied to myself. A little humility sometimes in your nature, and a little gratitude sometimes is I had to learn that I didn't know everything. And sometimes I say, I just don't. I practiced this for about 6 months once where I just said, I don't know. I honestly say, I don't know what to think about this.
Sorry, guys. I've just stumbled across the Aldo versus McGregor fight. Sorry about that.
Oh, what's going on?
Oh, unbelievable. All that talk. They've been hyping this fight up for almost half a year.
It's okay. I mean, I was looking at One Punch Man.
Sorry, say that again.
One Punch Man.
I don't know that.
It's an anime where basically the main character, all he takes to defeat every enemy, he only needs one punch.
What's happening with McGregor on that?
You want me to reveal it? Okay, guys, if you haven't watched the fight yet, turn away for the next minute. McGregor knocks him out in the first 2 seconds.
Man, McGregor knocks him out in the first 2 seconds. Oh, oh man, them are awful moments, because I remember paying $36 once to watch a Mike Tyson fight. Mike Tyson came down. I think it was the Spinks fight. And 36 seconds into there, I was like, "Oh no, don't do
that." He's got $1 million. I think he's getting paid $1 million for this fight. So,
holy shit!
$1 million for 2 seconds work. Nice one.
Yeah. I'll let him KO my ass for $1 million. I'll be like,
hey, you guys, Warhorse is in the chat.
Hey, Warhorse. Yeah, I just noticed that myself. Yeah.
Yeah, always.
Back. He was out on his Mgtow, his monk ride, bike ride this morning.
Yeah. Oh, it's one of the oldies there, one of the favorites. In fact, I only came across Warhorse when Mra started talking about his little you know, what is it, homeless outreach projects, and I only came across Warhorse when it was announced some guy was shaving his beard for charity, mate. And I think Messenger told me about said it was a channel named Warhorse. And that's when I first came across him.
Oh, that beard grows fast too. Does Warhorse's beard grow back overnight?
I know it grew back like within a week.
That's like Santa Claus beard. There, it's like boom, back.
It's like that Homer Simpson. You know, when Homer Simpson shaved his beard, and then as soon as he turns around and leaves the bathroom, his beard is back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Warhorse for president. Yeah. What kind of policies would you make, Warhorse? You know, how would you make this world a better place, or Florida a better place, or America a better place? I reckon he'd make. Let's see. He'd make beer and gas free.
That would be the new social entitlement program that we have for people, like beer and gas.
Beer and gas is now free, so you can go to your petrol station and get a six.
And motorcycle sales would go through the roof too, guys.
Yeah, there'd be a subsidiary for all Ducati and Harley Davidson.
No, Harley Davidson. Mostly, and perhaps even Indian sales would go up. Maybe a Norton Commandos, sales would go up. Yeah, mandatory bike riding all over his state. That would be great. Quite a policy.
And we could pay for that by taking away all benefits. Are they called benefits over in the U.S.?
Well, I think we better retract, because the Warhorse is now present in the room, and maybe he can explain for himself. Warhorse, how you doing, man?
Good, shining, Traversable, Ryuzaki. Okay. Hey guys. Yeah, my beard. My beard goes pretty quickly here.
Yeah, really, like overnight.
It's making up for the hair on my head, which keeps falling out.
We're all getting there, aren't we? Well, that's part of being an old man. It's like hair leaves the part where you want it, and it starts growing where you don't want it. So that's all about being a man.
Goddamn thing turned gray overnight about 5 years ago. I had this, really dark brown, almost black beard, and then one morning I woke up with all this goddamn gray growing in everywhere.
Oh,
and,
I tell you what's weird. After I think after the first family court hearing I had, the night after, or the morning after I attended family court, my hair went white.
Oh my God.
And that's absolutely true. Family court turned my hair white.
I can imagine that. Yeah, that's probably does a lot of really bad things to males.
Oh yeah, really bad.
I would say my hair went to my back. And now when a girl comes over, I say, "Can I rub my fingers through the hair on your back?"
The Florida werewolf. Oh, but you're not from Florida.
Well, we'll definitely put dilapidation services out of business, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if the hair starts growing on your back, how do you get rid of it? I mean, what happens?
Don't get rid of it. Leave it there, man. Bear power. Just fucking bear it, man. And I do mean B-E-A-R. Bear it.
Yeah, but what happens if you start like wearing like shirts and it starts like grate on your back and it starts itching and stuff?
Avoid wool.
Avoid porous shirts.
That's right. Yeah, porous shirts.
So Warhorse. So if you was president, how would you change the U.S.?
Holy crap! I don't think you guys would want me as president.
Voting for you already, buddy.
There'd only be about 100 of us left here. If that, no, I don't know, man. I really don't ever consider shit like that.
Yeah.
Having to deal with Congress, Senate, the whole infrastructure, and you're not gonna be able to do much. You're limited, and it'll affect you. Even with the best intentions going in, that you're going to affect change. the system has a way of changing you to adhere to the controls of that system. So, you know, and who wouldn't fall into the routine of, hey, look, you know, I got my own private big plane now as an Air Force One, you know, I got all these security guards, I can pretty much do what the fuck I want and my life is good, right? So piss on everybody else and...
You become Frank Underwood.
I don't know who he is, forgive me.
House of Cards.
I'm still not with you there.
Alright, well, it's a Netflix show. House of Cards. It goes through all the...
I don't have TV anymore.
I mean, yeah, well, it's internet. It's on Netflix. I mean, he goes through, like, he's a congressman, but the thing is, he's a whip.
Okay.
So every time they pass a bill, basically, he pulls out all these, like, favors. He basically keeps them all in line to basically vote for this one bill. And that's his job in the party.
Right. Yeah, guys want to go around the room and kind of answer, what would, and be serious, like, what would you change if you had a chance to change it?
Ooh, the loaded question of the day.
Yeah, so what perspective do each individual guy in Mgtow here think about what I would change?
I think I'd put society firmly back in the hands of men. I mean, right now, men do everything and they get nothing.
Well,
Can I
add on to that, Shining?
Okay, go shoot.
Okay, basically, if I were basically to do that, I would rewrite our Constitution in Latin. So basically, and along with our laws, saying what the laws are, we put why these laws are here. So this way, they can't misinterpret it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And do it all in Latin. So basically, no matter what happens, the vernacular won't change the meaning of the word over time. And so I would agree with Zeta. He would put everything back in men's hands, but the thing is, you have to also make it mandatory to teach Mgtow knowledge in the school system.
Right. Yeah.
You have to make it mandatory for it to continue on, and you have to like basically teach them in middle school, teach them as early as elementary school if you can. And the thing is, if that knowledge is out there, they're not going. It's doubtable that they'll go back. So basically, and then you gotta tear down feminism as a whole.
Right.
You gotta tear it down. You have to beat it up. You have to basically kill it, rape it, stone it, burn it to the ground.
Right. Yeah.
And that's I mean, it's a process. You have to do.
You know, giving it some quick thought here. I think I would quit handing money out to the rest of the world. I would get our military out of almost every place we don't belong in, and quit wasting our fucking money and take care of our own infrastructure and our own society.
So basically, we make Russia the new world police. Let Russia.
Russia's done. I mean, what's Russia going to do? They just lost half their territory and capital to fighting the war in Chechnya. They've just lost Ukraine. They've lost all the Caucasus, Azerbaijan, Dagestan. They're all out of Russian control now. Russia's. If China wanted, they could just steamroll over Russia now and just take it over.
Yeah. No, because I think it's like to me, Russia's the only guy we can trust, not the United States, because the I mean, the thing is, and the reason why I put Russia on a pedestal is because I know, since caves grow where there is winter. When there's harsh winter, that's where caves grow, and that's why I've said, okay, let's give it to the Russians, because right now it's just like they'll stick to principles, at least, and then by the time it's Russia being the new world police, we can get our shit together. Because China's world police is not going to be a good idea, because China doesn't know freedom of speech. It doesn't know what is freedom as a concept. It never has understood this concept.
Before we make statements like that, we need to qualify ourselves. I mean, personally speaking, I don't think we know that much about those countries.
Well, I do, because I took a history class. So I know the history of China. I know the thing is, Confucianism is it's not like Western freedom. I mean, Confucianism is kind of like it doesn't allow you to innovate. It doesn't allow you to be it needs you to be submissive, and the thing is, you can't be submissive and innovative at the same time. You need independence. People need to like unfortunately, you need something like American freedom to innovate, to challenge.
I think you'll find China now is very different to how it was.
Yeah.
China is one of the most.
I think so too. Yeah, good point.
The thing is, the biggest factor of why the West rose was because Socrates questioning everything until you know all the answers. Yeah, just create method.
Yeah. Yes, I was thinking are we still on that? Well, what we're changing, what we changed?
Whatever you like, Joe.
Yeah. I would get rid of land taxes and county courthouses and let the.
Oh, definitely. I'd stop the state from interfering with every single matter of family life, because men can handle it. You know, if you just stay out of family life, let the men deal with it. Yeah. We can sort it out. You know, you white knight police, we can sort it out. We don't need you coming in, sticking your size 4s and sticking your smelly feminist dicks in.
Right.
We can sort
bugs.
It. Yeah.
No more bed bugs.
You find a lot of the problems. It's when the government, they decide that they know better than we do.
Yeah, and also we have to reform the prison system. I mean, because the reason why and we need to make jobs, because the reason why people go into criminal activities because they don't have jobs, so they can't provide for themselves. I mean, there's some guys they can't compete. But the thing is, like, yeah, I mean, there's some guys who go in there for like because they can't pay child support. I mean, these are the workers. These are like our best workers.
Yeah.
And we're throwing them in jail where they rot.
Sort of like a minimum average of money that you can make, like $17,500 is, that's what goes to every person in that country. In America,
you
have such an overage of money, but that money never seems to make it down to the bottom. So we say, and that was the idea of one of the candidates a few years ago, that he says,
trickle-down economics.
Yeah, we're just going to make every American, we're going to put him at a wage, no matter if you work, you don't work, what you do, at $17,500.
Yeah, they need. I mean, what amazes me is this figure that the top earning 1% of Americans, they make more than the bottom. Is it 60 or 80%? It's just an unbelievable.
Unbelievable. 80%.
It's an unbelievable number. The fact that 1% of Americans could basically sustain 80% of the other Americans for what they take.
Well, the thing is, basically, you have to rebuild the education system. You have to rebuild it. And the thing is, because the education system, it's old. I mean, it's very bad. It's very poor. The thing is, the tax system, how taxes work and education works, it's not good. I mean, and the thing is, people also don't know how to spend taxpayer money wisely. They don't know how basically to say quality over quantity, or get the job. They hire unqualified people most of the time for education.
I think our biggest problem really is that the government don't have our interests at heart. I don't think the government. I don't think any of the either UK government or the American government really want the people to be doing as well as compared to their friends.
Because the thing is, it's to them, the competition it's more competitive for them. I mean, they can't compete. I mean, this isn't our strategy. They're undermining us, so we can't compete against them, because they're afraid, in the back of their minds, they're afraid that if you give us like the access to education, the access to if you let us basically work in a free market, that we're going to outcompete them. I mean, look at the guys who basically made great discoveries in the past century. I mean, some of them, they come from very humble. A lot of them come from humble beginnings. They don't. I mean, not all of them come from the high echelon society. I mean, you could. I mean, look at Jon Snow. I mean, he came out with the germ theory, and I think it's no one was listening to him. But the thing is, like, he was fighting. I mean, he fought cholera his whole life, and finally won.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of doctors that were really kind of altruistic in their nature. There was a Canadian doctor invented invented the way and means to combat diabetes.
Dr. Penfield, I think it was,
Yeah.
Robert Penfield.
You know
Might
what he
have
did
been
with
him.
that? He donated it to their people.
Yeah.
He made it free. He says, "Here, go get this. I don't want nothing from that." He donated it to people, and then, well, our pharmaceutical companies have hijacked that. But in America, you can get your free diabetes still because it was donated from him. But yeah, there's a lot of altruistic things that come from the freedom to be able to learn as you want to learn. We can provide that. There was a real nice program in France a long time ago that kind of got overtaken, that artists were paid from the state, and then that gave them the ability to, we heard about the starving artists. So they just said, okay, all these artists, if you can prove you're an artist and you can prove we understand that it doesn't pay that good. So they supplemented that.
That sounds something like France would do. They've always had a respect for the arts. Generally, you'll find that all over Europe. Okay, that's different from the North American scape. You know, you go into Germany, for example, and Warhorse, you might even know a few things where they will actually subsidize if you're an artisanate, okay, or you're good at some kind of a craft. You're going to get some kind of backing. I know, and maybe Eric Wijngaard can reflect what's going on in the Netherlands as well, the respect for the arts. I mean, we're talking countries where some of the greatest painters came from, the Rembrandts, Vermeers, and Van Goghs, you know, came from,
So
right? But there's always been some kind of backing.
Who do we fund in the West?
I don't think, well, that's just it. I mean, we're so business oriented here in North America, right? You know, namely America and Canada, right? It just goes by the wayside. It's not as important, right? Yeah. You know, business takes precedence. In Europe, yeah, I mean, there's business to be had, but it's an older culture. You know, they've been doing business for centuries. You know, I mean, I use the Netherlands as an example, you know, 300 years with Indonesia and all the rest of the colonies that they had. But, you know, for them, culture has to be music. You know, there has to be something with the arts, you know. That's part of their culture. And France definitely subsidizes that, Joe. It's no surprise to me, knowing them.
Yeah, we in America, we subsidize farmers and we subsidize feminists. You know, we do 44,000 feminist programs. Yeah, we subsidize them. We don't subsidize men. We have 2 programs for men. That's prison and child support.
Yeah, prison and child support. There you go.
Them are the 2 male programs that a man and the rest is up to himself, you know. But yeah, we don't equally give that money to subsidize. You know, we don't fund men in scientific ways the way we should. Man, I'd fund beer making. Zeta's beer making.
Oh, I'd be into that. Jeez, Joe, I'd definitely be talking about that. We'll definitely have a hangout on that, beer making.
Yeah, Zeta's beer making, because you are going to send me one, aren't you?
I'd like to. No, Joe, I'd actually like to cross the border eventually when I get my own car. And yeah, here's some Mgtow homebrew, man.
Mgtow homebrew, yeah. Yeah, beer making should be subsidized.
Yeah, Eric Wijngaard will send me a recipe, an old Dutch recipe, you know, for the wort, right, from the 16th century or something. Are you in on this, Mr. Wijngaard? You know, and yeah, I'll definitely do an old Dutch brew, man. That'd be awesome. But we're sidetracking here. Sorry, gents.
Yeah, so we've discussed what we would change as Mgtows, and it's a good topic. And we could see our ideas compared to the regular political spectrum as vast. There's a vast difference, and this goes back to let's talk about this for a while.
What's that?
Someone mentioned CS's videos brought me to the idea that he says there's going to be this collapse and this and that, and I says, you know, the idea is that MGTOWs are going to filter into society. So eventually, Anime Indian is going to filter into what he's going to do in society. I'm going to filter into, and all these young guys we bring around are going to filter, and we're going to start becoming the system, or we'll at least have influence in the system. Because most MGTOWs, and I won't say all of them, are going to go to college. They're going to put themselves first. They're going to become police officers, judges, lawyers, They're going to become social workers, social service workers. They're going to become the guy in the office. And it becomes a very interesting thing when you start looking at it as the Fight Club anomaly, where everybody was the wink, wink, nod, nod. We don't talk about Fight Club, but a Mgtow knows another Mgtow when he sees another Mgtow. Now, when you look at this in the perspective of the collapse, and if you're doing kind of collapse porn in your head, and the new system, we will become the system. We'll become a big part of the system, and every Mgtow will know a Mgtow when he sees them. So when that thing comes up, we'll be in the position to kind of direct what's happening.
Well, here's something interesting, Joe, to answer that. I'm going to give you a contrast, okay? Let's go back 40, 50 years, and let's look at radical feminists as they were forming 40, 50 years ago. And as they were as young women with their radical views and whatever and everything else in between, they started getting jobs in the public sector. Okay, they started becoming lawyers and police officers. Everything you described, Joe. You know, and this has taken place over 40 to 50 years, right? And I believe that most of those, what they do in their management position, so to speak, you know, what they've done over the past 40 to 50 years is, you know, impact lives, right, and impact policies to what we come to understand as now. And so it makes perfect sense that, you know, here we are as the counter or the the backlash to what's happened over those 40 to 50 years. And eventually I think that's what we're starting here. Really, this is just a spark, okay, what's happening online to lead towards what you just described, Joe, is what I'm seeing.
What happened?
I got to say something, guys.
Please.
And I'll give my little incident that happened today. I think the information is finally taking hold in all of our minds. I know it is with me, and I've become a little bit faster with the tongue instead of laughing at some of these things that women just naturally come out and say. And I'll give you the example of, I went to one of my watering holes today, and of course it's mostly bikers in there and what have you with their old ladies and stuff. And this friend of mine's wife, she came in alone. I know her a long time. And we're talking and talking. This other couple walks in, husband and wife, I guess, or whatever, and she's sitting on the other side of this wife that I know, and we're talking about her daughter. She pulled out a picture of her daughter. She's 13 now, and she made a point of how her daughter is 13 years old, going on 25. That she's changing rapidly. That her hair, her looks, the makeup, and everything else. And I said, yeah, girls reach puberty a lot earlier than boys do. And that's all I said. And the other chick chimed in all of a sudden, and she says, yeah, but men never leave. Or no, she says men reach puberty a lot later. And I just fired back with, yes, but women never leave it at all, And she gave me this look like, how dare you? And she says, well, you have a point, touche, I says, men reach it later, but women never get out of that puberty. And I wanted to continue on and tell her that, the average attitude of a grown woman is between that of a 12 to 18-year-old girl. And but yet that firing back came so instinctively from all this information that I've been taking in, and women no longer know how to respond to it because they're so used to the fact that nobody dares say anything back to them that makes any sense. We're getting through. And if an old fart like me, an old dog, can't learn new tricks, bullshit. There was one that came out so naturally today that I surprised myself. I was patting myself on the back, metaphorically, of course. But, I think it is getting through, and it is seeping in all directions. Even the guy today I went to Subway to get a sandwich for lunch, and the woman was, working in this, it's a gas station, basically, or whatever you want to call it, with a Subway in it, and she was telling about how the water ran down, and then she walks away and she says, well, I had a blonde moment. And he says, yeah, I'm sure you did. And I said, well, I'm sure she'll have plenty more. And we were snickering about it. And I says, trust me, I've been married to 2 of them. And the guy, he's probably in his early 20s. He fires back and he says, I'm so sorry to hear that. You know, so it's filtering in all around, guys. You know, we see it everywhere. And now I almost asked this guy, are you a Mgtow? But, you know, I didn't want to get into a long conversation with him.
Yeah. But here's what's interesting, what you're saying there, too. This also raises the issue of the guys that haven't a clue about Mgtow, but are living as we know it, right? You know, when we encounter guys like that, you know, or even listening to, you know, having conversations with the outside world. Oh, I know so-and-so. Yeah, he hasn't dated in 7 years. He's doing very well, but the guy hasn't a clue. That's the sleeping giant that we keep referring to, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's out there. Guys ready to wake up to the fact, you know.
I mean, my uncle's an example. I mean, the thing is, like, he's in his 40s. He hasn't been married once. And the thing is, like, he's living a Mgtow lifestyle, just minding his own business.
No, but that's just it, Anime. Yeah. There's a sleeping giant out there, and Vention has said this in several videos, you know, in the past year, actually, you know, that this is the sleeping giant. We're really just a drop in the bucket, okay, of men that are out there.
Yeah, the police, the judges, the lawyers, the assistants.
Yeah.
But it's filtering out, guys.
Yeah,
it's filtering out, and guys, whether they realize it or not, are being affected by it. And they're starting to kick back. You know, when I see a young kid like at Subway say something like that and have that very proud attitude, and the guy was very confident, you know, and he wasn't much of a looker. Well, you know, I mean, I'm a guy, so I can't really say, but, you know, this guy had everything it took, and he was so far ahead of where I was at that age, and, you know, that would have never occurred to me. To say something like he did, you know, well, I'm sorry to hear that you were married twice. And, you know, this is taking hold. And, you know, whether he knows about this, it is filtering out there. And I think men are getting fed up with how they're being treated.
Yes, they are. Yeah. Yeah, the natural reaction just a few 20 years ago would have been acquiesce to what that woman had said to you. And just kind of giggle and kind of chuckle behind the scenes and be nice to her and not say the real truth, but the truth hurts. And we found that that's a very shocking thing to some people, or mostly women, because they can't stand the word no and they can't stand the truth. But yeah, that's going to filter up through our society into these positions where hopefully, you know, judges, lawyers, and that's where the collapse will come. And that's what we talk about. It's not going to be a collapse in the sense of you know, everything's going to, you know, it's going to be this alternate you know, universe out here where you're walking through a desert and there's just going to be a couple guys left. No, the collapse is going to come when this thing hits it starts hitting judges, lawyers, presidents, and even a president. There could be a Mgtow president sooner or later, and because it's going to become okay to be a single bachelor and not put those things, you know, that's one of the criteria. You know, it seems like this undertone criteria of being president is you have to be married. You know, some days a lot of people are going to go, no, he doesn't have to be married. And he could, the wink, wink, nod, nod, and us will know, yeah, he's a Mgtow.
And I think women are also becoming aware of that too, as well, Joe. You know, like, you know, when you run, you know, my daily strolls, you know, you get into a conversation, you know, and that seems, and women are becoming aware. I've noticed, you know, oh yeah, so and so is, yeah, hasn't dated, won't do it. He's doing very well. Starting to hear that a lot. Yeah. So yeah, you're right, Warhorse. It seems to be, you know, yeah, and it's infiltrating very subtly.
Subtly, yeah. It's
right. Well, see, it's easy to dismiss me as a grumpy old man, you know. And
you're dismissed.
Say, yeah, I know, and of course I understand that. You know, I used to think about the old men the same way when I was younger, but the young guys are getting the drift, and as they get older and they get into positions of power, and they will carry that onward. You know, unless they lose their ways, they're going to drive that thought pattern, even if it isn't in the forefront all the time. They will see the travesty in what they're dealing with. and they will try to start writing it. But this is going to take a while. This is going to take time. It's going to take a generation or two.
It's a very new thing that we're doing here. We're just figuring out the answers to it now.
What happened there?
Oops, sorry. That was probably me. Sorry, I was just walking around there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to take a little while. It's very new. We can't say when these people do this collapse porn in their head. It's only because we don't have all the answers right now. We don't know. I don't think it's going to collapse. I think it's going to be very much more subtle in its nature. And we used to use the word a lot around here, cultural Marxism, but we're kind of reverse cultural Marxism here. We're going to give people a new culture that's going to work more for men, it's going to be men saying the things,
Well, with what's being talked about now, it'll be interesting to gauge what's going to happen in the next 10 years, is what I'm saying, right? To what extent? I mean, how many clips can you see of guys getting screwed through the divorce court, day after day after day, and and if you're one of those guys doesn't even know about what Mgtow is, eventually that's catalytic. To tell guys, fuck, it's just not worth it, to go through that shite.
Well, look, guys, I see here that Dr. Leonard McCoy says baby boomers don't get it, and I want to.
What don't we get?
Adamantly suggest that we do get it. We grew up through this shit. The times were different. The whole outlook was different. We didn't have the dangers that the younger guys have nowadays. But we did get it, and we do get it now. We see what's going on. We're not all stupid.
Yeah,
but of course, not all of us the baby boomer age group are getting it, and neither are the young guys of the young age group. They're not all getting it either. Today at the bar, I heard that 2 different people were getting married this afternoon, and we all had a good laugh about them, or most of us did anyway.
Well, I think one reason is education, and then the change in value systems is a big problem. And I think this new era is going to be called, or this new trend of thought might be called Mgtow. It might be called neo-social Darwinism.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I call it neo-social Darwinism, because the thing is we're talking about evolutionary psychology. But the thing is, it's kind of like Darwinism, social Darwinism. But the thing is, it's acceptable Darwinism, because this is a reality.
Well, it's going to continue on at its own rate, with different people getting different points of view of it. Even the generation before mine, and I'm a baby boomer, but the generation before mine, we had the confirmed bachelors, the people that never wanted to get married, that understood the downfalls of marriage, when the downfalls and the pitfalls of it weren't even as drastic as they are nowadays, or even in my generation, which came upon us so slowly that we really weren't cognizant of what was happening. It just started to snowball, and before you knew it, here we are now, understanding, what happened in the past, and it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, isn't it? You can look back and say, well, the baby boomers did all this shit. No, you know what? We didn't take feminism very seriously because they were a bunch of loons back then.
Yeah, no, we didn't know the consequences, because the thing is, we never knew the consequences of, because in history, women never got the vote, and the thing is, when they did get the vote, it was very rarely in history. We didn't know the full effects. We didn't record the full effects.
No, pat the women on the head and say, oh, here you go, little girl. I mean, this is the way we looked at it back then. We, appeased their little feelings and everything because they were the good little housewife, you got your sex from them, they took care of shit and did all this crap that you believed in. And here we were, not understanding the reality of it. Like I said, it snowballed very slowly. This wasn't an avalanche that came down. What's happening nowadays with the internet and information-based era is that everything is an avalanche now, and it hits you very hard. But you're trying to put in the last 80 to 100 years of information into this avalanche, which you can't do because we didn't have that back then. It was you know, two little boys rolling a snowball uphill, and nobody knew how big this bastard would get. You know, we never took it serious.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like saying, you know, you see a cannon shot, and then the guys that are standing there get hit, and saying the baby boomers don't get it is like saying, oh, those guys should have moved. Yeah, no, we just didn't see it coming. There was no way to see it coming. We took the first shot.
Well, every cannonball fell short by half a mile. You know, they never even came close. And then all of a sudden...
And then you bring it, and then you bring it into perspective of, I mean, the way things operated back then. They were worse, but you look at things nowadays. You know, things are changing like every 6 months, right? So it's happening at a much faster pace. So how easy is that to gauge?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Very apparent. You know, with us, it wasn't apparent. You know, what did we have? A couple of little broad-burning things, and Helen Reddy singing about "I am woman, hear me roar." All right, baby, go ahead. Roar away, you know, and be a good little girl, shut the fuck up. You know, we didn't take it serious. We didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, what they were doing in government, with changing laws, with doing all this shit. We didn't have this information out there like we do now, so therefore we didn't take it serious. And you can't blame that on an entire era of men that were grown up and taught to believe that the family value, being married, and everything else, and women were a lot different back then too. You know, they weren't these entitled little pathetic cunts that you have to deal with now. You know, they acted like women, they dressed like women, they were soft, they were loving. I mean, you know, holy shit. I mean, I fell for it lock, stock, and barrel. I enjoyed being around it, and to tell you the truth, I used a lot of women for my own you know, whatever you want to call it, pleasure. And, you know, we really didn't take this serious. Nowadays, yes, it got to this point, but you can't say that baby boomers are to blame for it because, look, man, we didn't have what is here now. You know, we just didn't have it at our disposal. When, you know, I remember when I got a cassette player, and it was like the highest technology ever, you know. And now we're talking worldwide on a computer, on a hangout, whenever we feel like it. God damn, you can't compare the two. It's just not.
Exactly.
Yeah, we had 3 channels on a TV.
3 channels, and then it went up to 13, and we had to use the dial. We had to walk 20 feet to the TV to change that before the remote control came out. Remember that?
Remote control. It was hell. It was a nightmare.
It was. But we did it.
You were lucky if you got one UHF too. You know,
that's right. Yeah.
19 or 43.
That was the crazy shit.
Records for this conversation.
Pardon me?
I'm too young for this conversation.
Well, no, it kind of puts you wise to what we're trying to say, that, you know, you can't blame previous generations for what's happening now because the paradigm has changed so much that blame, and what good does it do to blame earlier generations? You know,
nothing.
Right, it doesn't, and yet people still do
it. It's like, because I think people think if they blame the generations, like these, they're going to change history.
Yeah.
It's that cognitive distance.
Yeah, but you know what else? You know what else the baby boomers gave you? They gave you the computer. They gave you the internet.
No. Yeah, Steve Jobs gave me the computer.
Yeah, and he's a baby boomer.
Okay. No, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, those guys are baby boomers. They're from my generation. You know, if you're going to complain about that, you know, if you want to complain about the baby boomers, they gave us such modern medicine is due to, you know, baby boomers. You know, the computer is due to the baby boomers. There's a lot of things, you know, that's due to, you know, the baby boomer generation was in a tech generation. Them guys back in the 80s that came out of school and were trying to figure that out, writing all those programs. Hey, all these programs needed to be written on paper, and I've done a lot of them before, and then put in by key punch operators. and that was the foundation they were laying.
Oh God! I mean, nowadays you can have like when you type on the computer, you can just press a button and it goes and it simulates it and says like, basically you press it. Okay, this is how it's gonna work. Yeah. Okay, this error. Okay, so I edit it. Yeah, it works. Okay. Okay, publish.
Publish, yeah, that's all they got to do. I remember writing back in the 80s warehouse programs. Warehousing, one of the basic programs for the computer was to dissect and give 3-4 different sets of numbers to categorize products and stuff. And we had to sit there and it was 6 months of sitting there writing on paper all those codes and all those, and somebody typed those in as you just handed it, and you went down and you organized all these things. That's how it was. Really meticulous, rough work, but that all translated into a warehouse program where they just throw it in on a disk now, and it accumulates all the numbers and does it on its own. Yeah, there was guys that did that work, and we should thank those men instead of discarding them as ancients, the ancient.
Hey, I just threw out about 400 pounds of floppy disks.
Oh, really?
Does any? Yeah, that was for my business. All the accounting and everything was all floppy disks. And
was it the 1 megabyte ones?
Oh hell, I don't remember. My wife did all that shit.
They'll make great shotgun skeets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have been broke if I'd have been shooting at all them, but it gave me a chuckle to know how many of those we had to load up compared to a DVD now, or a disc, a CD disc, and a lot of guys I know that are in their teenage years, or even 20s, never had to deal with them, and yet, I was and my wife were learning hard and heavy, trying to keep up with that technology back then. It was amazing that some of the things that I could do on the computer to her, and then her, doing some things that I couldn't do, and I was just beside myself. Comparatively speaking, that's ancient technology now.
Oh man. I remember back in taking a course in the early 90s for the first desktop publishing software that came out. I had to regroup, and that's where I got my first introduction to computers and learning how to go. We're working on a Mac computer, the 7300 Power Series by Macintosh, and we're using Photoshop 2.5, trying to compress, a file down to JPEG under 1 meg, in order to fit on that floppy disk you're talking about, Warhorse.
What is this new?
And that process would take like 5 minutes, man. It was just incredible where we're at now.
We're talking about.
I think the first computer I had was a DOS system computer, and I thought, what the fuck am I going to do with this piece of shit?
Yeah, really.
Do anything.
Yeah, that was the first. I remember that being the first. You got the computer, and then that was the program, and then you went online. You had to dial up the number by yourself, and then dial in, and then Microsoft would pick up and then give you what you needed. But short of that, it was like that. It was all command prompt screen, and then you to work with after the command prompt screen.
I got one guy who still has a 386 from the late 80s, or early before the Pentiums came out, and he turned it into a typewriter. Still the original monitor and everything, but the only software, it's just all he has is enough to send to the printer, and it's just a glorified typewriter because it's beyond obsolescence, right? But that's a 386 for those guys that remember those days.
Yeah, 289.
Yeah. I mean, the Macintosh I was on had only 24 megabytes of RAM. Go figure. And it could operate Photoshop 2.5. Ooh. And this is before Photoshop CS for those that are in the know.
Yeah, we were just talking about the 8-tracks the other me and
Oh, the 8. I remember 8-tracks by K-Tel. Yeah, by K-Tel, man. K-Tel would come out with every other month,
Yeah, Vertexes, those tapes Warhorse was telling me this the other day, and then I noticed when you'd walk down the street when I was a kid, they had all the 8-tracks, and when you got done with an 8-track, you'd whip it out the window of your car, or you got mad at it, and then it would bust apart, and all that tape would blow in the wind, and there was trees and trees and trees full of 8-track tape.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember guys pulling that off. Yeah.
I used to love watching them explode after I had to learn how to rewind one. You know, if you ripped on one side of it real fast, it would spin the inside of it, and then it would kind of come back in. You'd plug it back in, and then the goddamn tape deck would eat it again.
Yeah.
And after a while, it just got so bad that you had to rip it out and break the tape, and you threw it out the car window. And if you're doing 60 miles an hour, those things exploded like a grenade, you know. And you just sit in the rearview mirror, loving how that bitch just disintegrated.
You know what I hated about 8-tracks? Okay, is you're listening to a song, and here you are, right in the middle of a Zeppelin tune, and then change to the next track, right? And you hear that, you know, that cha-chink in the voice, you know, there's a lady who's sure cha-chink, and all that glitters is gold, you know. That was nuts.
Fallout 4 technology, guys. This is Fallout 4 technology.
Mm-hmm.
Stop and go wop, 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 and you take a match pack real quick and stick it underneath it and wiggle it around.
And it's so funny that nowadays, basically, people can just when you get a computer, a terabyte's standard now.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, even the bandwidth requirements. You know, like here in Canada, they still have caps on your bandwidth for for wireless, right? It's ridiculous. Not just for wireless, even for the internet, the regular internet as well. There's still a cap going on. And I mean, when you get the whole Lord of the Rings is probably going to be using about how many gigs? You know, the whole trilogy. And then if you're going to transfer that per month, you know, like 35 gigs, if you were on a plan with 35 gigs, you know, that's the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy right there.
Wow, and that doesn't even take... If I put that on my laptop, I mean, that's just like... That's not even going to cut... I mean, that's not going to kill my laptop. It's not even going to kill a terabyte.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. 2 terabytes is kind of, you know...
No, well, I just have 1 terabyte.
Yeah, you can, oh my God, the information you can get on that now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I don't even have the best equipment, too. And the best equipment are the gaming computers, the gaming desktops.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's how everything is gauged. That's how everything is manufactured. It's all gauged by the gaming computers. They're always the top end. I mean, what's the latest one you can buy now for how many grand? 4 or 5 grand? You know, he's got the kick-ass, you know, with the cryogenic coolant for the fucking video card. You know, I mean, it's just ridiculous. You know, but yeah, gaming.
Now, you know, the only thing holding up us now is, hey, come on, government, let's get that fiber optic line into my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, that's still going to take another 10 years or so, because there's especially the old neighborhoods, Joe, and I know because I was in that industry, and I think you have the understanding too. It's the new developments, okay, that are getting the fiber, but it's the old, you know, with the inner city cores, you know, that's going to, the copper lines have to go because they're not going to accommodate, you know, that kind of bandwidth.
The copper lines are basically going to kill the economy.
Pretty much. They're obsolete. They're on their way to obsolescence right now.
Yeah, as soon as you get that fiber optic, the minimum is like 100 maps, you know. It's like...
all right, well, let's hope Trump rebuilds the infrastructure.
Trump?
Let's get Trump in there so he can just put 100% surge on the you know, fiber optic lines. You know, I'm selfish about this. I want the fiber optic in my neighborhood.
Yeah, we got it about 1.5 years or 2 years ago. We got fiber optic through here, and you know, of course, they want to upsell you now. The ISP wants to upsell, but you know, I find that I went up one for free, and it really didn't do much. You know, so I'm not going to pay a lot of money for it, but it's available now, and it's certainly a lot better. Comparatively speaking to regular dial-up modem, you know, I mean, no comparison.
Yeah, we had to go in about a half mile away on a major street. So that they take the what happens with these lines is they'll take the major intersections that are state and federal owned, like Route 33, for instance, instead of your regular street. They'll put it down that area. But I live a half a mile away, and it hasn't. It's been 3 years now, and they haven't taken a single line and put it to our neighborhood.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. I live.
You know what's so funny?
Ocala, Florida is a relatively big town, and I live on a major highway, so they had to come up the highway and lay this line. So I kind of profited by that. But the people behind me in the neighborhood, they still don't have access to it.
I mean, to me, it seems like basically, I think we should put a new law at the local level that the thing is that the community can decide what to improve upon.
Yeah.
Instead of giving it to the city council.
Yeah,
because the city council, they're just sitting there.
Yeah,
I mean,
they don't know. Trying to figure out how to make money on it. For some kind of new revenue and that's all they think about is new revenues for the city.
Yeah, no, they're not. The thing is like, you're not gonna get. The thing is like, dude, you want more revenue, you have to basically. It's capitalism, man. You got to improve the hardware all the time.
Yeah, you got to invest to get. Yeah, capitalism.
Yeah, you have to invest, and they're not investing.
And then you make your revenue. You can't. They're taxing the city. They're taxing me for something I don't even have right now, so they can put it in later, then retax me and double hit me. That's why
it's not smart. It's like
land tax has got to go. You know, communities, the community courts are, these county courts and these land taxes and these idiots running these from the, from the mayor down in your local community. Them are the people that got to go, because them are the people costing us money that are holding things up.
Yeah, we need more. We need more. I'm going to say more like, is it like what, state rights, local rights?
Yeah, we need the utility company to come in and say, hey, I'm just putting these fucking lines through. I don't care what you say.
Yeah, but utilities are just as guilty of this. Around here, about 5 years ago, we got a notification that our energy company, the utility company, is building a new nuclear power plant, or refurbishing the one we have. Because we have one right here on Cedar Key, or close to Cedar Key, and we started getting billed for the prospective power plant that they were intending on building. So it took about 3 years, and they were charging us, I don't know, about $20 to $40 a month on my bill to build this power plant. Which they hadn't even gotten all the okays for. The plans weren't made yet or anything else. And then finally they said, you know what, we're going to go up into Georgia. A different utility bought our power system out, a larger conglomerate, and then they said, okay, we're going to divert the power from another place. We're going to disassemble the nuclear power plant there, not use it at all anymore. And then
what?
Yeah. And then they had to be taken to court by all these different counties and everything. And finally they said, all right, we'll refund all the money, but not in one lump sum. We will give the customers like 1% off on their bill every month now for the next 20 years or 30 years. I mean, this is not good business either. And people, of course, they have a short attention span, and they forget, and what is 1% or 2% of your utility bill? It's nothing. They've made all this money. If I'm paying $20 to $30 a month on my power bill,
the thing is, like, one of the things we have to add into high school is we need to make economics like a mandatory in high school, and like mandatory in education, because the thing is, like, economics, it's an elective in high school. It's like you don't have to take it, but it's like, what? It's so critical to life in general.
Just knowing certain little things about your utilities and stuff like that. You have to think about it very economically. Hey,
right, but there was no vote ever taken on this happening. You know, this
And the
was
thing
just
is, like,
passed through.
where do you take the vote? I mean, where do you vote? And that's the problem. There is no communication between the community and between the council either.
Right, and they just vote these things in without your knowledge, or which happens in my community a lot. We just had an incident of that lately where they put a new street in. My street's new, and
yeah, they're not inclusive at all.
What happens with this is the sewage was they came down this area and they said, oh, well, y'all got to pay for tap-ins now in sewage. And I said, well, wait, we paid for tap-in and sewage when we built the house. And then someone said, oh, yeah, we thought it was like one of those, oh, yeah moments. We thought you guys would just forget about that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we're running up on 2 hours, 3. Yeah, 2. Yeah, we're going up on 3 hours now on this thing for comfort's sake for the viewer. I noticed we've been running 6-7 hours lately.
Yeah, every time we come in, it's long.
Yeah, it's too long to watch actually. So I wanted to wrap this up right around 3 o'clock. If we got anything to, if the panel has anything they want to bring up, or the guys in the chat want to ask or say anything, or give a fuck you out to somebody. Please do that now.
We only got 15 watching now, so I think the interest is waning, to say the least. And I mean, I came into it late, so to me it's no problem. But there's not a hell of a lot to talk about anymore.
Yeah, it's probably dinner time, and I can go watch the Browns lose the rest of their whatever they're losing by.
And I'm just in the middle of making some lunch myself, so yeah, I've run out of things to say. We've talked about everything. Let's wait until next week.
Yeah. So, guys, what have we learned this week in Mgtow?
Gaming pushes technology further. It's not useless.
Yeah,
it's not pointless.
Yeah, it's not pointless. Have you learned anything in Mgtow this week, Zeta?
Oh, I sure did. I mean, I was sharing that earlier on when we started, and definitely putting it to work and increase my awareness.
Yeah. How about you, Lars?
Yeah, I think staying out of the middle of all these fights and back and forths and people taking sides on who's leaving, who's doing this, and who's doing that.
Yeah.
It's gotten old, and we've been there before. Most of us that have been around for a long time have gone through this over and over again. Yeah, to me, it's just like, you know what? Now I'm kind of done with it. I don't care who wins this battle, and I'm just staying out of certain things anymore. I'm doing my own thing. That's it, bottom line.
Yeah, just easy in Mgtow, and that's usually where this thing ends up. Just easy, guys. I've learned that Poe's law works both ways, and you can't win with that thing. No matter how indifferent you try to be, or how critical or humorous or how sarcastic or how whatever, there's still going to be retards that don't understand what you say. So, and with that, I think I'm going to wrap this thing up, guys, and press that stop broadcast button. I want to thank all the people for coming in. Eric, Veritek, Male Feelings was in earlier, but something happened to his microphone, and I hope he fixes that so we can have him in. I like talking to him. All the guys that have been today, what does he go by? Dr. Leonard Nimoy. And thanks a lot for showing up. And this was the Sunday Throwdown. Thanks a lot, guys.